Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 194. I am Annie Fuchsia, or also known as Annie. I'm a full time streamer on Twitch and also do this weekly show for you guys. Today's show will be covering a lot of new things as the 8.2 PTR has hit the servers, and a special today is also a guest who will be introduced shortly. Before we go on to that, I'd like to introduce my lovely co-host, Perculia.
Hey everyone, I'm Perk. A very exciting week with the 8.2 PTR dropping and lots of marathon coverage, which we'll be sharing with you. We also have a guest, but before that, some usual housekeeping. We have a Moonkin hatchling to give away. Keyword will be eggs because they hatch and it's Easter week. Higher rate chance to win if you are a subscriber. And if you have any questions about any of the PTR stuff, send them over to SAS148 and we will try to answer them at the end of the show. And if you're wondering what nether shards are, the more you watch Wowhead Weekly, the more points you get, and you can redeem them for things like pins of Brightpaw and us, or rockets, or plushies, or premium, lots of cool things. So without further ado, we have a guest. He's a very busy man. You may have seen him casting the Mythic Dungeon International or any of his WoW or variety streams. Let's have a warm welcome for Sloot.
Hello.
Yay! Welcome, Sloot. Lovely having you here.
Good to be here. I think it's the first time we've done of this. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're trying to get better about having guests on. So
Oh no, it's fun.
Wanted you here to, between casting the MDI, fresh off your feedback event at Blizzard, we thought you would be a great choice.
I've been asking her for ages to come on, and she just keeps refusing me every time.
Yeah, right. Of course. But yeah, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What do you like doing?
Hi, I'm Sloot. I've been playing WoW since pretty much beginning of Classic. Streaming for 6+ years now on Twitch, and just super involved in the WoW community over the years. Along with Wowhead as well. I've known Perk for a long time, so it's fun to be here. You as well, Annie, of course.
Fun to have you here.
Gamescom 2016, I think.
Something like that.
So, a long time ago. So it's good to be here,
we always really appreciate your insights whenever there's a new PTR, and you're always, going through the data mining and the class changes and the Mythic Plus stuff. We always make sure to let you know whenever we find something new and exciting that your stream community would appreciate.
We scratch each other's back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of things you like and your involvement with the community, we know you went to Blizzard recently for a trip that, previewed some 8.2 stuff, and we covered a lot of your findings on Wowhead, and now this week with the PTR, we're actually seeing a lot of those things you hinted at, actually on the PTR. So I know you've discussed the trip before, but what were some of the feedback topics or things from the trip that really stood out to you the most as, interesting things or, interesting discussions with the devs about stuff you wanted to improve on?
Yeah, I mean, interesting is subjective. It was the entire experience was it was the first time they did it, so it was very experimental and very open. So it wasn't like we sat down and, they're like, this is the topic we're talking about. You're not allowed to stray from this. We had two kind of roundtable panels. One was more of a, general systems thing, big to small. You can talk about PvP, you can talk about mounts, mini pets, systems, whatever you want. And then the next one was focused a bit more on raid encounters and Mythic Plus and stuff like that. So, I mean, in terms of, what was interesting, I mean, me, I like my PvE, I like my high-end stuff, I like my collectibles, so it was interesting hearing that. But, I mean, there's a lot. I think there's 12, 13 members of the community from all over the place there, a lot of which I didn't even know myself, just Latin America, Europe, etc. So everybody kind of chimed in different topics, things that maybe I wouldn't personally ask usually. I'm much more in the realm of, hey, with respect to rating or M+, whereas some people are asking about mini pets and stuff. So I mean, it was all interesting at the end of the day. I'd say the more interesting things were for me to learn about were like philosophy, the philosophy of how they want to design things, how they approach things, why were there some obvious kind of shortcomings in the expansion so far that people didn't like, how do they take that feedback, why is the turnaround so long for some of these things, etc. So I think those are more core that I'd be interested if this were to ever happen in the future to learn even more about, rather than just, I mean, you always end up getting the basic insight of the new systems coming in. I mean, they'll explain it anyway in a blog. We get it as content creators. People see it on the PTR. So that is more skin deep as opposed to kind of the bone marrow of the situation.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
it's a
think
cute cat.
Yep. I think it's interesting to learn why they designed something that ended up backfiring. I know Ian touched upon that a bit in one of the interviews leading up to 8.2, how they tried to fix a certain problem with Azerite, how Legion artifacts felt very linear after a point. And I'd like to actually hear more on that, because I know some of the people are like scratching their heads why Blizzard does something and it seems so obvious why it's wrong, but it actually doesn't, or it's from good intentions, or interpreting player data a certain way but maybe not the right way.
I think I talked to him about it. I think what happened was, honestly, I don't think there's a nice story here of we thought this was best for the community. I think they just kind of lost a bit of sight of how much they took away, and some of the new systems and some of the new big controversial changes that they put in, including things like GCD and whatever. And then it was just the perfect storm of everything happening, losing sight of how much they took away, not much giving back to classes, etc. And then we kind of ended up in this situation. A lot of the changes in 8.2, not related to class specifically, but just system changes, etc., kind of putting Azerite on the back burner, or something that they said like it's been in the works, a lot of them, for 8-9 months. We're talking that's beginning of 8.0, right? From the moment
Right.
that issues started popping up already, they were already kind of working on that. So it might have seemed to the general public that they're ignoring our feedback, we don't care. But I guess that's just how long it takes for them to implement or try to fix some of these things right now. So some of the ideas that they had to remedy the situation or the issues that existed in 8.0 are only now coming to fruition, kind of thing.
Yeah, hopefully they can nip it in the bud sooner this time around if they have the testing for Azerite, well, part of Azeroth's replacement system, first build, as opposed to, several.
In the beta, yeah.
Yeah, many months after beta came out.
Yeah, I remember we were waiting for the Azerite system to be in the beta for the longest time. It's like we had everything except that, and that was the core of everything. We needed to know, we needed to be able to give feedback, but it was really late. It was really late.
Yeah, it's just I feel like it's Azerite didn't turn out great, and they kind of made the good changes with Azerite that should have been there from maybe day one. But the problem is, by the time it's going to hit live, we're halfway through the expansion,
Yeah.
and the changes they really made to Azerite were kind of putting it on the back burner. Like, it's just going to be in cruise control now for the rest of the expansion. So moving forward, we have this new essence system for the neck, which, if I'm to be very critical about, it's certainly should have been the right way to go from the start. It's a good concept, but is a little underwhelming in my opinion at the start. Something that part of it is just pressure from community being like, oh, we want to change this for so long, and everyone's kind of holding their breath. Oh, finally we're getting this big change, and then you're like, that's it.
I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a glyph system.
Um,
It's not a huge change.
Yeah, I think it's a system that's gonna be really good as more is added to it. So like by the time 8.3 rolls around and you have multiple slots that you can mix and match, people are gonna be a lot more satisfied. But certainly at the start, when it's just one major, a couple of minors, you know how the community is. They're just gonna find min max for every situation. It's not gonna be as deep as you think. But hopefully that kind of improves over the time as the time
Yeah.
goes on.
I'd be curious. They keep saying they want to go back to Legion artifacts with the collectible show off vibe to it, with the legendary essences. But part of what made Legion artifacts cool was that you had the permanent transmog options, and that's something that looks cool with a legendary essence when you fire off a spell is not quite the same oomph as having a permanent, flaming warglaive, and things that you can collect and swap between. So I remember in a really early BlizzCon interview, they were saying that maybe the Azerite system would affect your transmog, and obviously that didn't occur. But I do think that they still need to realize that people like having tangible things they can show off, and the flashy spell effects are a step in the right direction, but it's still not as cool as the Legion equivalent.
Yeah, I feel like they're kind of trying to do what they could do at this point, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, Legion, everybody kind of thinks back to Legion and it was, oh, such a good expansion. It was a really good expansion overall. But I mean, let's not kind of beat around the bush. Legion certainly didn't start very well either.
It's like mob
I
souls
mean, people
runs.
needing to, yeah, mob souls,
Yeah.
people needing to delete characters just so they can reset their bad luck protection for legendaries. I mean, it was a nightmare, but I think Legion started to really turn things around much earlier, kind of the 7.1 time, and then just a bit beyond that after TOV, they really started to kind of hammer down a lot of their core issues. Whereas this time, the turnaround this time in the expansion is kind of halfway through, so there's only so much you can do before probably a lot of the team's going to start focusing on major, systems and rehaul and whatever in 9.0. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, the SS system is certainly a step in the right direction. I just think conceptually, honestly, overall, this expansion just came too early, and I think they were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place where we just came off 2 expansions in a row of 15-month droughts. Everybody was going insane at that concept, so there's probably a like insurmountable amount of pressure on the devs to be like, look, we just gotta get this out early. And let's be honest, the expansion probably came 3 months too early, something that they would have needed for feedback and
Yep.
getting rid of bugs and getting systems a bit better, just like Perk is saying, get some transmogs in there, et cetera, et cetera. Probably just because of the pressure that they didn't want to disappoint the community with 15 months again, but maybe that's just how much they need for an expansion launch. Like, they just can't go any less. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they could have had a few more little mini patches for closure in there because people were getting used to the steady stream of content updates in Legion. And I know I can't snap my fingers and say, oh yeah, just put in another mini raid. But it seems that people were responding well to little tidbits of content, sort of drip fed to them towards the end. And people were happier in Legion overall, than Warlords. So I don't know. I feel like Legion still had more of a shelf life on it. And not that I want 15 months of nothing to do, but like the Legion had a very short period of nothing to do.
Yeah, I think nothing to do. I've heard this over, and you girls have been around a long time too in the community. You hear this every expansion, especially in especially Warlords. There's nothing to do. I mean, there is always something to do. It's just, do you want to be doing those things? And that, it's fair. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's fair to be like, I don't really want to do islands and war fronts and hunt for old mini pets and hunt for transmog. That's fine. There's stuff to do. It just might not be, people want to see new stuff to do, stuff that keeps coming back, not having to repeat the same content that you did months and months ago.
It's funny. I did a Wowhead survey, and a lot of people were asking me to highlight. They're like, oh, I'm not a bleeding edge raider. Like, can you guys highlight some stuff to do that's just fun? Like, besides, do your Mythic Plus, and this is the easiest dungeon, or this is your, most optimized loot. So I started this weekend thread of content to do themed around, the current patch, but stuff from older expansions. Like, oh, we didn't mind old gods. Why don't you go to Anchorage? And people have been responding super well. And a lot of people that weren't playing back in the day said they didn't really know about all of these, raids and little side grinds and achievements. It wasn't very apparent in game to do it. So I think that's pretty interesting that there's a lot of content that could be untapped or better highlighted for people that, maybe picked, WoW up in Kata or MOP and didn't know about the earlier stuff.
No, for sure. And on the note of content, say what you will about the 8.2 system changes, et cetera, et cetera. You might like the essences, you might not like the essences, what they did with Azshara, et cetera. But definitely the thing is that has me psyched about 8.2 is, I mean, just the raw content coming out. Whether it's sustainable or not via systems and class diversity, blah, 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 we'll see. But it's, I mean, arguably, and they said it at the summit too, it's if not the biggest, then close to the biggest major patch content update they've ever put out outside of like an actual expansion launch. So there's a lot of stuff to do, which is certainly what a lot of people seem to be looking for right now.
Because we're getting the two zones, we're getting the raid, we're getting the dungeon. What else was there? There were a lot of other kind of updates, like smaller updates, like new arena map, new island maps, heroic war fronts, new war campaign,
heritage armor,
story progression in general. Yeah, heritage armor for the two old races. There's a lot.
Mechagnomes is something that they, and at the summit thing too, they just constantly kept hammering that, like, this is, it's a huge experimental playground for us, and it's something that we want you guys to constantly come back to, and new stuff's happening all the time. And some systems and mechanics you've never seen, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's meant to be something that is constantly keeping you, combining all the past cool end gamey things that we've seen, like Timeless Isle, and not just necessarily end game, but like Isle of Thunder, et cetera. Just combining all of that into one area plus more. I mean, their quote to me, I've said it on stream, I stream a couple times too, was it's the biggest, the most secrets per square inch that we've ever packed into the game in one area.
Discord love that. They're eating their head.
So apparently there's going to be a lot, which is cool because I mean I'm not the biggest fan of gnome architecture stuff, but so far it's been cool. So that I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
And bringing back
Annie
rares as well.
Yeah, you're all into mounts and pets, so you'll be there a lot.
Collections, yeah. I'm probably gonna hang out there. I'll run around, sleep there at nighttime, run around during the days. No, but I'm really excited about them mentioning that actual rares are coming back as well, because that's something that has been, or it feels like it's been removed from the game for at least a few expansions now, where when you kill something, it doesn't instantly respawn, but instead it's got a couple hours respawn timer or something similar. And because that also gives a sense of competition with other people on your server. And it's a part of the game that I kind of miss, even if it can be annoying. It's something that also described Timeless Isle a lot, since there were so many rares there. So I think that's going to be really cool too on Mechagon Island.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to hit a lot of notes on Mechagon for a lot of different type of people, depending on what you're looking to do, including the dungeon,
Yeah, I also
and it's a
feel
big
that,
dungeon too.
Yeah, I feel like BFA did a lot of experimentation with like narratives and bringing characters to the forefront, and shocking things like Teldrassil. But there was some backlash that the quest kind of felt very like almost like a single player campaign that you're following along, watching people do cool stuff. So I'm hoping with 8.2 the focus on open world sandbox in the style of tried and true fun places like Timeless Isle, or Nazjatar, where you're doing a bunch of stuff with twists and turns, will be a return to more of the traditional kind of end game stuff to do in WoW, because it's not always fun to be like, oh, and now you're gonna pick up Salatath and do something really dumb. It's nice feeling like your character is more in charge of the situation and exploring around.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, and I don't think Nazjatar is something certainly not to be swept under the rug either. I'm pretty excited for that too. But there's one thing that, and this is once again through all the years playing this game, one thing that you can't really, one department in WoW that you can't really flame too much, although I know there's a bit of flame about to come up with some of the armor sets and stuff, but the art department, right? At least for zones and that kind of stuff, and dungeon design, like that's always pretty spot on. It's always really fun to see, really quirky to see.
I think armor is actually
something that's gonna be nice.
Armor is, it's a good point that you made. It's probably the only art aspect that people do complain about a lot, and not saying it's wrongfully so, but it's interesting that you mentioned that, because the art in the zones is beautiful, and even in our current zones there's been a lot of very nice looking places.
The art and the music put together, it's a very immersive experience. I wonder if some of the art flaming is due to the fact that the perception is that we used to have 12 art sets and now we have 4, so we have less, so therefore the art sets they're cool, but they're not 3 times as better as they were in Legion, so people feel it's a net loss that something was taken away from them. So it's going to be hard to please people. Okay, so with all this stuff, when do you think we're getting 8.2? Originally I was saying end of May, but then hearing the raid and dungeon was so close to 8.2 launch, and how we're opening, but Nazjatar isn't testable yet, I'm almost thinking like maybe late June release, and then I think July 16th for Season 3, because the PvP Season 2 blog ended mid-July, so I was thinking that's how it would work out. But yeah, when do you think this is coming out? Because it's all really cool, but people can't play this on live servers, and they're still kind of lukewarm about 8.15 and current Azurite.
Honestly, it's just guesswork. They gave us the okay to talk about literally anything they said at the summit, so if I knew anything, I would say it. I don't think we're probably going to see it until like mid to late June, kind of like you're saying. Well, for 2 reasons. One is what you just stated, that they turn around from launch of patch to Season 3, essentially, and launch of Mechagon and raid, etc. is only going to be 2-3 weeks this time. And two, frankly, the MDI on top of it, because there's class changes. There's class changes coming. MDI LAN is going to be in early June. So I doubt that they're going to want to coordinate a super major patch launch with the LAN and all that kind of stuff. So
that would be weird if it was before the LAN ended, because it's like, oh well, like season 2 ethics on LAN and season 3 on live, and it would be weird.
Yeah, so I'm thinking mid to late June would be my guess, but we'll see. Hopefully no later. I mean, it's mid-April, right? And we just got PTR now, so 2 months of PTR is already that's enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we discuss some of the 8.2 stuff we think will be near and dear to your heart, we mentioned MDI, so let's just touch upon that
Sure.
a little. So yeah, you are in Ohio for like 2 months, and you're adjusting your sleep schedule every other week. So just tell us about some of the behind the scenes work people might not realize goes into the MDI, and what's a big change this year versus last year, or anything new and exciting about it.
Well, I mean, for starters, the structure of the MDI is quite vastly changed. It used to have 4 regions. You'd have NA, EU, Oceanic, and APAC. And that's just kind of changed. They put everything. They've merged a lot of these. So you have Oceanic and APAC, Asia, etc., all in one area, and then you have EU and NA all in one region too. And then they kind of went towards more of a cup system, like how PvP does. So the cast before the season would be 4 weeks, 1 in each region, and then top 2 from that make LAN. So you have top 2 representatives from each region. And now they've kind of revamped that. Now it's 6 weeks of casting. And tournaments, and there's more stringent time trials, because one of the major player complaints that came last year was they basically opened up time trials for weeks for players.
Right, so people had really funky.
Oh man, yeah, people were just killing themselves practicing, because as long as it was up, you feel the need that you should be in there practicing. So it's just weeks of it, and players were going nuts. So now they only have, depending on if you have cup practice or time trials, you only have a 48 to 72 hour window. When the dungeons are announced, they're like, here's your 3 dungeons with your affixes. You have 72 hours to complete your time trials, kind of thing. So that's a lot better. And then because of the regions now, there's 6 weeks of casting. So every week the region changes. So the first week we casted West region, which is NAEU, and then East, and then West East, West East. 3 cups for each.
Oh, so the time changes weekly.
Yes, which means that every single week, which is actually this week, which Jack and I have been staying up overnight for the past few days, that we cast overnight every other week, and then the other days we cast during the day. So, because obviously we need to be live casting the Oceanic Asia region during their prime time, right? Not our prime time. So, yeah, it's there's a fair bit of work involved, but it's worth it. And it's been a lot of fun. And then just as usual, a month and a half later, there'll be a LAN consisting of the top 4 teams from both regions.
Yeah, okay. It's funny how it seems that they improved some stuff with the time trials, but of course, hot topic this time is that the classes are so repetitive with mirror matches anywhere, and everyone has the Prot Warrior and the Resto Druid, and the 2 Outlaw Rogues, and everyone is trying to be Night Elf for Shadow Meld. Do you have any ideas how they could maybe improve the tournament or the general system to encourage more class diversity?
I mean, the problem is, a lot of people have asked this, just do some bans, right? And allow only 1 rogue, ban maps, etc. Map banning and affix choice was something that they did in the previous one, and that had its own limitations. I mean, I guess I just want to preface by saying program is still young, right? So, I mean,
right, it's year
I've been really part of
great, for year
3, yeah.
Oh,
I've been part of every single MDI since the start, and every time they added stuff, they try to change things, try some new things, maybe take a couple things away. So certainly the way it works this season in Cup isn't the way it's going to work forever. So I was looking for feedback on that kind of stuff. But the biggest issue, and you get this all the time, obviously, and believe me, by the way, from the casting side of things and from the back end, it's no more fun to be like, here's the comps, and I'm like, oh, Prot Warrior, Resto Druid, 2 rogues and a Windwalker. it's only, it'd be fun certainly to be able to cast and comment with the guys on the desk about different comps and different healers and different tanks, but that's just
Mm-hmm.
not the reality we live in. And the issue really stems from like the issue at its core stems from the development side, and a lot of people don't realize that the MDI team and the development team are like two different entities entirely, right? Um, so the fact that there are two rogues and prot warriors all the time and whatever stems from the class balance development side. I mean, if those
Yeah.
classes weren't
Yeah, I
so
mean, like
grossly
Shroud is
overpowered,
OP, so
Mm-hmm.
right,
use them.
Mm-hmm.
right. If those
Maybe
classes weren't so
them.
grossly overpowered, then this wouldn't be the case at the MDI. On the MDI level, doing things like bans and whatever, like it just kind of feels bad. It would be okay if, let's say, just in the world of tanking, for instance, if all the tanks were kind of within spitting distance of each other and were good, and one team banned prot warriors for the map or whatever, that'd be cool because then you'd have players that are expected to multi-class while picking a tank that might be equally competitive. But because those classes are so overtuned, you're forcing players to really play something that is objectively worse and do the map in a worse fashion and just have a worse time overall. There's nothing creative about it. There's just, we're bored of seeing Prot Warrior, let's just get rid of them kind of thing. So the fix really needs to come not at the skin deep level of MDI restructuring and formatting, which by the way they won't do like mid cup anyways, but it
Right.
needs to
Yeah.
come from like the bone deep level of these classes are too overtuned and they need to be fixed earlier. And then also for future, this needs to be like done faster and earlier, not wait for prot warriors that were obviously overpowered or rogues that were obviously overpowered for months before the MDI even hit, and then look at the MDI and be like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we had like, what was it, 5 or 5 months of BFA without, any MDI, so there was enough time to adjust before that.
Yep.
I think going back to overpowered, I think the other issue is that they're just good in like every situation. And I think going into BFA, they wanted more, each class should feel unique and bring special utility. But as it works out, it's the same classes are really good for every situation. It's not even like, oh, we're going into, Blackroot Cold, we're going to see a mage BOP, but in Arcway, we're going to see a Warlock. It's just the same classes or just good across the board.
All the maps,
I guess
yeah.
sort of that with Unholy and Motherload, but it just they're just the same classes are just good at every situation because Shroud is so powerful.
Right.
We had Sours do an article on that last week, I think, just explaining why they're just so versatile while other classes are not.
Yeah, it's just and I mean I don't envy it on their side. You have the competitive side of things being like, this is crazy ludicrous. How can this go live? But then you have obviously, the people that just play the game casually, they might not even know what the MDI is. They barely do any M plus that, that play rogue. They don't want their rogue identity gutted. They don't want Shroud disappearing just because at the competitive level it's super overpowered. So certainly not a fun job. And, they don't, I mean, as well as I do, Blizzard's not a fan of sharding their game. Like, they didn't, I mean, we saw how PvP templates went in Legion. The suggested thing of like, hey, have a template for rating and have a template for M plus and have a template for world questing. Like, they don't want to do that because they don't want you logging on and playing a different version of World of Warcraft, different places. They want a big cohesive unit. But unfortunately, with how much there is in the game, if they stick by the one balance for all of PvE thing, they'll never, like, it's literally impossible to balance it. Like, it just won't happen ever.
And it would also remove the RPG aspect of the game as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think you were saying something, Perk, at the same time.
Oh, I was going to say that they could like design things conservatively, trying to make the game balanced across 5, 6 aspects, all these different things, but it could end up being worse than if they said, okay, we're going to balance the game for a few things and then have esports be different. They're trying to just equalize everything but not make anything happy or ideal.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that you mentioned as well, you said banning can obviously lead to other kind of problems where there's a certain class that is just better in every way, and then you're forced to play something which is just worse. So it doesn't feel very creative or very... it doesn't feel like a real comparison of skill in a way. But the idea of removing class stacking could help, though, I think. Or what are your extra thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wouldn't be as invasive as just outright banning one of the classes, and it would definitely promote diversity. But I don't say like that would be a big enough change that would warrant like, hey, we're not going to see that until season 2 of the MDI this year, kind of
No.
thing.
Yeah.
On the flip side, every MDI we've had, rogues are obviously the hot topic now for double class stacking, but MDI 2017, there were like 3 Windwalker comps,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of, I don't know. I'm not a yes or no on this one. I see it going either way. I'm of the opinion that the players who are playing at the highest level should have, as per the rules at least, whatever rules may exist at the time, they should have the freedom to play things at the highest level, right? This is how they're trying to perform. On the flip side, right, we are trying to do an entertaining esports kind of thing, and it's not exactly very fun to see literally the same comps every map from every single team always. So again, for me, this just goes back to the core issue of class balance and design and turnaround for numbers and stuff. And if that was better and faster, then we wouldn't have to have this kind of residual issue of how do we make this not a problem at the MDI level.
Can it also be a question of dungeon design as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose.
To some extent.
Actually, one of the things we talked about at the summit was their feelings on like the amount of trash you have to kill in M+ right now is off. It kind of gave me the sense that they don't think you need to kill enough, but part of that was the silver lining was that they're perhaps for season 3 even they're looking to kind of rebalance the amount of trash you need in general in the dungeons before bosses, how much trash there is present in the dungeon. You have something like King's Rest where there's barely anything to skip, and then you have Motherlode where there's like 300% trash count or something.
Yeah.
So certainly, but I think M+ in general is something that was dungeons have been a core part of WoW for so long, and they were never built with esports in mind initially, and now they're starting at least a bit more as much as they can to at least keep it in mind. I would assume for BFA dungeons and moving forward as well. Whereas a lot of other esports you've seen in the past were kind of built with esports in mind. Or were easier to broadcast for that, StarCraft, a lot of the battle royales, etc. So it's a bit of a reverse thing. I also can't think of any other esports that's PvEVP rather than direct PvP.
Yeah, I mean, WoW is unique now because it has essentially 2 very different esports in the game using the same pool of balanced abilities and classes. So you're trying to balance for MDI and PvP at the same time. I was going to say it's also interesting how when we talk about different departments, that's also very clear that, esports is not calling the shots on other things because the tournament is going on right when Crucible of Storms opens. And I know people were saying that could be kind of a weird overlap if people are, trying to do Mythic progression and maybe would have to try qualifying for a cup the same week.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing that. Like a lot of the guilds in the top 20 are. We know Method Limit had that issue. Limit wasn't in this past cup, but had they gotten in, like they would have had the same situation too. Those 2 guilds, the 2 iconic guilds that are going for world first. But I actually talked to them about that at the summit, and the reality is that they wanted to release Crucible. Crucible wasn't part or tied to a major patch, and it wasn't a major raid tier, so to speak. So they had to release it at some midpoint between the 2 major tiers, being BOD and Eternal Palace.
Right. I mean, it makes sense also with the PTR. Like, I assume the PTR is going to hit Tuesday or Wednesday because, Crucible introduces the idea that old gods are doing something, and then it built hype for all this PTR data mining.
It's basically like MDI and their Crucible like logic of thinking in terms of when we can do this has to be between 2 major tiers, 2 major patches, and then as a result they're already directly competing for the same spot. So I guess their hands are just tied. Like there's just no other time that these could not coexist.
Yeah. Well, like you said, nothing is set in stone for future seasons, so maybe they'll try learning from this and coordinating better or have a workaround in case this sort of small tier conflicts again.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, so since you only had an hour with us, I figured we should discuss some of the actual 8.2 updates. So first up, Annie has a lovely picture of this. Create your own set bonus with the Mechagnomes rings.
Yes, let me get that.
I think that you said they mentioned this at the Feedback Summit Sloot, and that even more rings are coming, but right now we've data mined 8 rings. You mix and match 2 types of rings, the logic loops and the bit bands, and one selects the proc you want and the other selects how you proc it. So do you think that this system seems interesting and, possibly getting more depth or expanding it in the future? And, do these rings seem viable, or are they just sort of like a cool flavor thing that, people might ignore if something else just happens to have a higher, item level or Titan Forge?
Oh, no, I definitely think these are super viable and can be super best in slot, especially once, Mythic Plus rolls around with these. But I think there's always two sides to every story with items like this that come out. One of them is the general public that goes, "Ooh, a new system. Oh, this is kind of cool. All right, I can mix and match my character." And then you have the extreme part of the community, the high
Right.
M plus runners, the raiders that go, "Oh my God, I have to farm so much to get
I
my
need Titan Forge ring
I need
A
Titan
and have with
Forge.
Dip C, yeah.
I need, I need combination 3 of 494 now, and so I think that's gonna cause a headache for them. But it is just one of those things they can't design the game around the elite X
No.
percent at the top. So
Right, at least it's on tournament realms, you could just buy the
Yeah.
gear, so but
but yeah, I overall I think the system's really cool. This is kind of their expansion of, as you guys said, 2 sets essentially, but adding a bit more flavor and kind of option and creativity for the player to them. So I think it's pretty cool. And for what it's worth, some of these effects are actually, especially at the base level, I mean, these are the blue versions or that you guys saw from the dungeon, or actually there's only one version right now, I suppose, M0. And even at that level, 375, I think it is, or maybe a bit higher, they're pretty beefy for proc. So you can only imagine that at the M plus level, whenever that may come in season 4, it's going to be pretty sought after.
did they say anything about why they were adding this sort of system? Like, I know a lot of people were sad when set bonuses went away on armor, and we've seen some cool gear with Crucible Storms. Did this sort of develop from a need of like, oh, people kind of miss cool stuff on their gear, or something else?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because that's one of the things I asked too. So Crucible gear design is very much experimental, and it stems from the kind of meta concept of they're still not at the point, and Ian even personally is very disappointed with this. They still don't think they're at the point where raid gear is rewarding enough, especially in the realm of trinkets. I talked to Ian specifically about this, and he is very disappointed, like beer and bod, and he hates the concept that you kill this awesome mythic boss for the first time and a trinket drops and they're like, oh, vendor trash, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So hopefully for Eternal Palace we're going to see a turnaround on this, but it is definitely a very big at least in their opinion, issue. Raid gearing right now is just not tempting enough, and that's part of the reason I know there's always this heated debate in the community of M plus versus rating. Why is the M plus cash at the end of the week 5i level lower for compared to the rating? And I actually legit asked that, and the answer is literally we just don't want it to be as good as rating. Like there's no
Wow.
there's no magical
Yeah.
reason. It's literally 5i level that raid loot is more appealing artificially. So I mean, hopefully they fix it from the core somehow and make raid loot more attractive. But I understand. I mean, unpopular or popular opinion, depending who you're asking, I think sets were good to go in Legion. Like, I'm glad they got rid of them. It was just too much competition based on today's systems of slots and the amount of different shoulders you can get. Let's say that would min max secondary stats, and then you're locked to a certain
especially
piece.
with like legendaries and then Azurite and yeah.
I mean, the concept of some form of raid tier ever coming back in the future would be cool. I've seen some neat suggestions suggesting that maybe do it as like an enchant on your shoulders so that you get the set bonuses, like something that you equip kind of over top of your gear in a way, so to speak, rather than actually taking up an entire slot. But I don't think we're going to see like legit 4 pieces of loot coming back from raids anytime soon like that.
Yeah, I think that the whole idea of class identity, Legion was really big into that, and BFA, everyone feels very, generic between having a lot of the abilities taken away, the artifacts, the tier set bonuses, and even the class specific armor sets. So adding in a little more class identity in some way doesn't need to be a repeat of, set bonuses, but like you said, an enchant, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
But so going back to the rings, I think you said more were maybe coming on a stream, and we just saw the base ones. So they I guess they want to keep experimenting and maybe having crazier stuff.
Oh,
Then
sorry, for the Mechagon rings.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what I ate for breakfast, but I could swear that when we sat down to play test Mechagon and have a look at, one of the first things I always do is open up the dungeon journal and look around and stuff. I could have sworn there were way more rings on there than just 8. So I do feel like some of them are just not there. Maybe like you're saying, they're just looking to see what they're like at the beginning, but I remember there being a fair bit more. I don't know if they cut them out on purpose because they're like, okay, this is starting to get too much or not, but.
I mean, I'm double checking our filters because we I mean, when we did all the data mining, we had like, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 items, and you're just like scanning through trying to see what catches your attention. And after a while, your eyes kind of glaze over. So I'm just maybe there were more rings, and we just we're like, oh, just skip.
Well, I mean, even right now, like on the PTR in the dungeon journal, there's nothing. I mean, this PTR is very much like the launch of an expansion or the mini version of it. We've got the bare bones of 8.2. Right, Nashitar's not open. Mechagon's not open. We got to play test the second half of Mechagon, but it's not open yet on PTR.
Oh yeah, so since that's closed, that actually ties in well with their topic about the boss list. So Ketsu was like, "Oh, like Sloot likes Mechagon. It's on the PTR," and I'm like, "It's not on the PTR, but yeah,
Katsuki."
But we data mined all the boss lists, so we know all the names of the bosses and roughly what the encounters do. So yeah, if you want to share, why you think Mechagon is so cool, and then we can discuss some of the, bosses only through data mining, that would be cool. So yeah, so the second half is like it's like a gauntlet. I think that's what people were saying. You have to like dodge all sorts of crazy things. It's very fast paced.
So we got to playtest indeed Mechagon second half, or what will become its own instance, in season 4. For now, it's just a mega dungeon like Karazhan was in 7.1, where you have to do all 8. So we did from Tussle Tonks and on. So Tussle Tonks, Kujo, Machinist Garden, and King Mechagon. And the way they described even the first part to us, it kind of follows conceptually like Karazhan did. If you remember, Lower Karazhan was a very, very trash-rich dungeon. And the second half, Upper Karazhan, was very, like, barely any trash. And it's apparently the same way. So in the first half, they said you kind of start out on the beach and it's your infiltration to Mechagon. And it's just a lot of trash and stuff. Whereas the second half of Mechagon, spoilers, by the way, the second half of Mechagon, you're in the city itself, and there's not a lot of trash. And indeed, there are 2 gauntlets. One of them is a very windy treadmill that you're running against along a wall after the second boss. So that's going to drive some... And, of course, there's flame vents along the side that kill you. And then the second one is essentially alarm bots, if you think about it, that are immune to all damage, and they just run around, and there's a lot of them. And if they catch you, they stun you and send you back to the beginning. And immunities don't work, so you have to kind of navigate your way through a bunch of alarm bots. But the dungeon was awesome, and this is, like I said, coming from a guy that is not... I'm not down for Goblin and Gnome architecture. It's just not my jam. So it did look very cool. It was not exceedingly long the second half. It was just... everything seemed, just about right, and the mechanics of the encounters themselves were pretty neat. Some old and some new, kind of thing.
Cool. And yeah, so this won't be available on Mythic Plus right away, but in 8.3, we're thinking it's going to be split in half and then Mythic Plus.
Yeah, that's what they made it seem like. I mean, anything's subject to change, but I think just like with Karazhan simmered for about, I think, a major patch, something like that, where it was just Mythic 0, the full dungeon, all 8 bosses. They want you to get that mega dungeon experience, and then after that, they kind of cut it into add heroic versions to each one and Mythic Plus.
Yeah. So as I'm just scanning through the data mine journal for Mechagon, I just want to highlight some interesting loot quickly that's catching my eye as I'm looking through it. We'll talk about the models in a little bit, but there's some interesting things with procs. There are 2 mounts: the Mechagon Peacekeeper from the Aerial Oppression unit and the Aerial unit from King Mechagon. The Machinist Garden has a fun item called... where did it go? No, that was the wrong boss. Kujo has a fun item. He's the trash boss, I think, the 6th boss. he has an item called the Trash Master's Mantle, and the equip is you don the mantle of the Trash Master and you get a Trash Master title. So
Trash
that sounds
Master.
amazing. Yeah.
Okay. I remember that boss. It was like it was one of those metal dogs, which apparently that model is tameable by hunters. I was told.
Oh.
It did look pretty cool. But yeah, no, I remember the boss. I don't think they're really. At least we didn't see any flavor items while we were there. When I looked at the dungeon journal at Blizz HQ, they didn't even have the mounts in and stuff. So a lot of this is news to me as well.
Yeah. The boss called Trixie and Nemo, there is a cape, and you can, once per long rest, returns you to your Hearthstone location on a 1-day cooldown. So I
Okay.
guess you have a,
One extra
not
Hearthstone.
exactly. Yeah, sort of an extra Hearthstone. And there is Greaves of Acid Resistance. Attacks from ooze and slime creatures have a 10% chance to deal 50% reduced damage to you. There is a Trog Femur that looks like a bone. And then there is a weapon called Log, which is an actual log. And there is a staff where you zap yourself and you gain intellect for 15 seconds.
Zap
and
yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the loot seems, at a glance, seems interesting at the first time. I know people will talk about models later, but the models right now don't really have any interesting appearances. Oh yeah, this was interesting. All the wrists from Mechagon have like use effects, and usually wrists are very boring slots.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was discussed at the meeting, but I noticed that they all do stuff like these anodized deflectors as you gain parry and avoidance for 6 seconds, and then you emit a shockwave in front of you on a minute cooldown. So that seemed cool. Like rings usually don't. Sorry, not rings. Wrists don't usually do anything.
That's similar with all the items in Crucible too, right? It seems like
Yeah,
maybe it's a
yes.
direction of experimenting, having more slots with interesting procs, that just things that we would normally just see on trinkets, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said that. Well, Crucible, I mean, their words were literally, this is experimental in terms of loot for us to see how it goes. I didn't know about the wrist, though, in Mechagon. That's neat.
Yeah.
I mean, it is usually a very boring slot.
Yeah. It feels like after the show, I should go do like a weird stuff from Mechagon. You may have missed post. Because, yeah, I didn't realize there were 2 mounts until I was like, oh, let's open up the journal as Sloot's talking about the gauntlet. Yeah, so I guess I've got an idea. So I know, obviously, raid testing has not started for Azshara's Eternal Palace, but I'm curious if you were able to take a look through the encounter journal and had any thoughts on the fights, because, we've data mined the basic journal now, and obviously we're like, oh, that famous character's here, and there's an interesting line here, but did anything stick out from you as to fight design, or is it too early to say?
Yeah, I read through the entire journal yesterday with stream. It's a bit too early in the sense that, I mean, first of all, Azshara doesn't even have any more phase than phase 1, so I'm sure there's
It's a
more.
really strange phase 1, because she summons cursed lovers, and they like put on a play for her, and like they're sad and longing. It feels very I don't know, odd for like an
interesting. For sure. I mean, on paper, a lot of the encounters always end up looking awesome, and this is coming from a PV rating nerd, right? Because they've done it for so long. So they always look a lot of fun and interesting. It's tough because you never know how, the more daring and like noodle scratching the mechanics seem to be, then the more risk there is that they never really turn out. Obviously, there's a lot of heat and concern over the underwater boss, understandably.
Oh yeah. Underwater monstrosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, swimming plus combat in WoW was never, a match made in heaven. So, but I mean, and it's funny, at the summit, so many people asked about this, and even the raid encounter guy that made it was there, and all the head devs were there for that. And they seem very convinced that, they really nailed it this time. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, I can't wait.
That's interesting. So they consider it being good then. They think that
they
did it.
Yeah, I mean, as good as it can be. There's a reason that
course.
the fight is largely immobile. It's not a boss that you have to kite around. It's kind of stuck in a cave, and you DPS it. But all of the small mechanics that people were worried about, like, hey, is my Death and Decay or my Consecrate as a Paladin going to hit? Because we all know how that works in water. And they said that there's no concern about any of those. Everything, the boss. So
And picturing
Okay.
like a shaman or someone else with watery effects in the water, and you're like, what if I can't see?
yeah,
It's
and
fun. You keep
advantage
on going.
druid swim form. No, druid's aquatic form works in there. So
It
everyone
does.
love your
All
druids.
druid
It does, yeah.
Oh,
kill
wow.
the underwater monstrosity.
Lucky Druids. Yeah, I was gonna say the whole concept of doing levels or anything in water is such a infamous topic in almost every game. I remember even playing Super Mario growing up, and whenever it's a water level, it's oh no, because they're always just slower, you know. And I think that feeling of being slowed down is just not very nice.
I mean, silver lining, Vashir, I think it was Vashir, right, in
Vashir,
Kata,
yes.
was one of the most visually impressive zones I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
yeah.
It was awesome to look at, but
Not as nice to
when,
be in there.
yeah,
I
I
mean, I
mean,
remember fly. I remember swimming to the top and then flying when I had to go from like one end to the other end.
yeah,
I wouldn't swim it.
no,
Right.
it speaks something if to make the swimming feel normal, they have to basically give you buffs as if you're running on land,
Yeah.
but you're underwater. So it's kind of
Yeah.
we'll see though.
Mhm. Mhm.
But the raid should be good, exciting. We'll have to see raid testing.
Mhm.
Knowing them, I really wouldn't be shocked if in like 2-3 weeks from now they're like, "Hey, Eternal Palace raid testing."
Yeah, whenever Crucible ends, they'll be like, oh, time for
Yeah.
you guys to prep for the next raid. But yeah, so since you have to go in like 10 minutes or so, is there any topic you really want to discuss? Like, I know we have Water Strider updates, we've got Crucible of Storms, or if there's anything else with the PTR, like some models you want to talk about. So you can pick the next topic.
I mean, I'm more than happy to talk about anything. It's really whatever you guys are curious. I mean, the main thing for me being at that summit and everything was to be able to gather as much info that I know the community is hungry about going forward conceptually. Some things like that aren't even necessarily related to 8.2, like their stance on loot, and they want to rein in the loot drop rate. So there might be a pretty heavy change on that in 9.0, things like that.
Well,
But
Wait,
interesting.
wait,
Yeah,
wait. What's that?
yeah. Let's back up a
A
bit.
change in
oh,
looting?
look at the time. I gotta go. I mean, just in general, they feel that like loot acquisition is way too high. Like it's starting to be Diablo-esque, and it's something that they're looking to kind of rein in on. Possibly pretty hard at some point, but I think that would be a 9.0 change.
Which is funny because everyone likes to mean they're like, oh, this is like Kaldala, how you get the shards and you turn them in to get this item. Like with the relinquished items in Legion, how they could proc legendaries. Everyone's just like, oh, that's Diablo.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they feel, and to be honest, I agree that it's gone a bit too extreme in one direction. I mean, just you get crazy amounts of loot everywhere you go. Starts to certainly make it feel a bit less special and less impactful when you do finally get the pieces that you want. It's more of a kind of crapshoot right now to farm the same slots a million times a day over and over until you get that perfect roll.
Yeah. How does that fit in with Warforged and Titanforged? Because if you make the loot less frequent, but you still have Titanforged, then people get mad that they can't do anything to improve their loot. That like, oh, I got a bad roll and now I have no loot for the rest of the week and I'm angry. And
I mean, this is all conceptual. This wasn't like an official part of the presentation, much as Ian saying to me like, I don't like this, and like I think it's gone too far, and this is something that's going to change. I'm like, okay. I guess we'll see.
And is the problem that there's just so many sources of loot?
Maybe. I mean, it's just maybe too many sources. Maybe those sources drop loot too much or too frequently, or too many pieces of loot / too frequently. I don't know what it is, but like there's this weird mesh of systems that are constantly added to the game that eventually perhaps don't mesh very well together. Like you said, Titan forging plus high loot acquisition drops. The whole point of Titan forging is to allow you to to give that feeling of you wanting to keep coming back and trying to get that high piece of loot and having a fun moment and whatever. When in reality, that is also has to be done through showering you with loot to give you chances to get that low proc chance. But if you take away the showering you with loot, then nobody will ever see Titan Forge. So then do we need to change?
Do
Titan
they
Forge?
discuss like third-party resources at all, like the need to use guides or sims? Because when you're showered in loot, you can just enter in this massive pile of loot and have calculations tell you what's the best, out of your 20 items, what's the best one to equip. And it seems like it takes away the fun or the in Blizzard's mind, it'd be the choice of like, oh, what 2 items are cool? Let me experiment. If a computer is always telling you like this is the best one, go for this perfect combo of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too much was talked about that just because this loot thing, like I said, wasn't a major part of the
Right.
presentation or anything. But I think that's just the way the community is. I mean, it just started, the foundations of this, I guess technically were vanilla, but you remember in Wrath of the Lich King gear score, and I mean, we just live in a community now in WoW where everything very numbers centric and people like to min max
Yeah.
and calculate, and
And the
so
people
no
that have
matter
been
what they
doing this
do,
are doing it
yeah,
for 15 years, so their
yeah.
tools are like more sophisticated than there were 15 years ago. Like
Yeah.
even Wowhead is like
So-
it's grown.
So I just think it's even with the Crucible gear coming up, a lot of it's proc based and really cool and funky, and to the naked eye it looks like, oh, this might be awesome, but ultimately somebody's going to calculate its RPPM and show you in like this kind of situation that it actually outputs slightly less damage than if you had secondary stats or whatever, and then everyone's just going to read that guide, and that's the end of that, right?
Yeah, it's not like in the Crucible, like when we told writers to update the guides for Crucible, most of the gear slot lists are still, well, obviously Dazara lore because there are more weapons and Azurite, but there's not a lot of Crucible gear replacing Dazar Allure loot. So that it's sort of sad because you're like, oh, but this other piece sounds so much cooler.
Mhm.
But I guess it's like one less DPS, and therefore it's less DPS.
Yep. That one DPS is important.
I mean, it is for some people.
Yeah.
That's how you end up with 2 rogues and 1 prot warrior.
I was gonna say something else about loot that just like totally flew out of my head. So
I'll comment something quickly on the loot, and then if it comes back, you can tell us.
Yeah.
The topic of Titan forging. So, do you think that's part of why mythic raiding may not feel as rewarding loot-wise? Because even if something Titan forges in mythic, is it even called Titan forging? Because it can only go up by 10 item level, right?
Warforging, yeah.
Warforging, yeah, that would be warforging even. So, it's there's more chance to see crazy good drops. Well, I mean, not more chance, but there's more of a random crazy loot drop in lower difficulties than there is in mythic, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, some of the suggestions that were thrown out, they would consider something like, hey, the later bosses, the more difficult bosses that are very inaccessible to people in a mythic raid, like maybe just have those drop max Titan Forge loot already, right? So you don't have to worry about it, and it's already so hard to kill them, and that way they understand the concept of, yeah, we want to come back and hopefully get that good gear, but there's a difference between going into BOD and trying to get your good gear from, Jade Fire Masters rather than like Jaina, right?
Exactly. Like, aren't a lot of mythic guilds even skipping Jaina on a weekly basis?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they are, because it's just a pain in the butt right now. So, yeah, I mean, that was suggested, and they said, like, their issue that is, for instance, okay, well, if Jaina drops max Titan Forge loot, and she drops a one-hand Agi dagger, but then, the intellect staff drops first boss, then everybody uses the intellect staff will be really pissed off because they have to try and Titan Forge theirs, whereas the rogues with the one-hand Agi dagger get automatically Titan Forge.
Right.
So then they'd need to explore a model where Jaina only drops all the weapons and things like that, and that's a bit boring, but they took to it. Like, that was feedback that a few people said at the summit, and they liked it. And then also just with the concept of Titan forging, like, that's not something that's going away in this game, but a lot of feedback, including for myself, was given that it just needs to be, one of the biggest issues with Titan forging is that, some people get mad that one guy got lucky, whatever. Like, I don't think that's the end of the world. It's fine. Let those people have their fun. But it's the fact that the one guy who got lucky maybe plays the game once every 2 months, comes in, gets the best item ever. You're really mad because you play the game 14 hours a day and you still don't have that item. So there needs to be a way to kind of counter the bad luck for the people that do want to invest a lot of time into it.
Yeah.
So that by the time the next raid tier or whatever rolls around, you do finally have that item that you want. You worked hard for it if you're just the unluckiest person in the world. And I think that's feedback that they very much took to heart. And they're like, yeah, like that's actually a really good idea. Like, that certainly has been a problem, blah, blah, blah. Whether they do something about it or not, we'll see.
Yeah. So I just remembered my question. So it was systems related. So there was an interview, I think right before the Feedback Summit, where they were talking about how they try to do something like new and shiny every expansion, and then they try to move on to another system so there's not weird issues that come when an outdated system is in another system, like how portals were a mess. But they're realizing that it ends up being jarring to the world, and they should work on making the existing systems more exciting and rewarding. Like, talents sort of feel kind of bad after 100, and they don't just want you to level up and lose abilities or feel like, oh well, artifacts are cool but they're going to go away, and like this is cool but it will go away in a year. Was that sort of design philosophy touched on at all, how they're maybe trying to beef up permanent systems versus just temporary ones?
I mean, leveling, that you mentioned it, is something that was brought up, and it's something they want to work on pretty hard. And they outlined the same kind of issues that we all know about. Why it feels not so great to level to 120 and then just go like 7 levels at a time and nothing happens. Character sheet score is just going lower, and so they haven't like figured out a way to really fix that, but the leveling per se. But in general, I mean, my understanding with their philosophy going forward with expansions is they always try to bring something new-ish to the table to innovate, because an MMORPG that's 15 years old, so they need to be able to innovate and bring new systems. But it does feel to me like you're saying that they've done so maybe at the cost of being too like making their old system too like negligible, and just kind of forgetting about them to the point that it starts to become an issue, like the leveling, for instance. So there's definitely a lot of talk of giving player power back and ability back and class tuning and class design and stuff like that. But I mean, we all know, and they know, frankly, that a lot of that really major stuff, core stuff, is not really going to be touched till 9.0. Like, that's just on how their expansion cycles work.
Right. But I mean, they'll be developing. I mean, I think some people, I mean, we realize this, but I don't think the casual people realize how soon you have to start working on an expansion before it gets into players' hands. So they're probably developing that stuff right now.
Oh, yeah. At this point, 9.0 is like
options.
well in development. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward, I think they want to kind of start to solidify, certainly, like you're saying. I would assume they didn't really touch too much on this, but solidify a lot of their core systems rather than just like, here's something else new, here's something else new, something else new, because certainly don't want to stretch yourself too thin. And certainly that issue has kind of come up a bit in BFA with some things already.
Yeah, like you always need something iconic that's exciting, especially for returning players. Like if someone quit in 7.1 and now they're like, oh, why is my artifact broken? Why does it suck? Like, where did everything go? It helps that, I know people were always really hype about the old talent trees. Like, it was so recognizable. It's like, oh, it's my talent tree. It looks iconic. I'm going to get more stuff each tier. And then that's sort of stagnated in comparison.
Yeah, and I mean, in hindsight, a lot of what you got in those old trees was, I mean, let's be honest, kind of boring. Like, I remember as a tank, some of it was awesome, but some of it was like, oh, I got, like, I have to spend the next 5 points getting 1% parry so I can get, my next thing. So I understand why they got rid of some of that, but there was certainly a lot of iconic stuff, and I think interesting and important to learn from that, too. There's just not enough, people just want some more class depth, I think, at this point, and ways to kind of really stand out, because even the talent system, it never really serves that purpose. Let's just be honest. There's always going to be one talent that's mostly the best, outside of some weird scenarios where you might want the support talent or the AoE talent or something. So I think they definitely need to have a good look at, not specifically a class design overhaul like they did in Legion, but more so the kind of concept to what customizability there is for classes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just saw the time as well, and we don't want you to be late.
Yeah, I gotta go talk about how we're gonna cast overnight for an hour.
Well, we really appreciate you making time in your very busy, topsy-turvy schedule.
Thank you very much for making the time to come here.
Guys. It was my pleasure, and thank you very much for having me. Sorry I couldn't stick the rest of the show out, but hopefully I'll get to poke around in the future again.
Yes, for sure. The 200th show, right?
I'll be there. As long as I'm not casting the MDI.
Yeah, no, you're welcome anytime. Thank you very much for coming in, and good luck with the MDI casting.
Yeah, all right. Have fun casting this weekend.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Wait.
We're still here.
Waiting.
Yeah, I just realized I need to quickly just change the scene because it might show something that shouldn't be shown.
Okay.
So just give
Oh
me
God.
1 second.
All those naughty
Okay, now we're
pictures.
good.
Yeah.
Now we're good.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right. So
Whoops.
that was great.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it wouldn't actually have shown anything bad, but I just wasn't sure because it's on Discord and like, you know, the camera
Right.
goes away and then it would turn into like the DMs and maybe I showed something private. No, but it's okay. It's okay. We
Yeah.
got this. We got this. Sloot is awesome. I love him. He's always so cool
It's
and
really
chill.
nice how he made time in spite of his,
Yes.
schedule being crazy with everything.
Yes, definitely. Oh, hello, Luna. Aw,
Hello.
I think Luna missed Sloot. She's like,
Aw.
what? He left already? Why? No, but he's awesome. I've met him over the years at different type of events, and he's always super chill.
Yeah, he's always really good at both giving Wowhead feedback and then also highlighting interesting data mining technical stuff. So yeah, he's really awesome. We love highlighting his stuff.
Almost sneezing.
But there were topics that we picked to cover when Sloot was present, and then other topics we thought were not as essential for Sloot's interests, like mounts and pets and transmog. So
Yes.
we will cover them now.
Yes, let's get started with those. Let's jump straight into the updated models that came with the 8.2 PTR.
Yep.
Annie has a cold.
So-
I do. Bless you. Thank you, guys. Yeah, the first one up is a long anticipated character. Let's see.
Yes.
We have a model update for Thrall. There we go.
He has been working out a lot and regrowing his hair.
Working out. Yep, he has.
So people were very excited to see him because they've been teasing for 2 BlizzCons now that he's going to make an appearance. He was on a slide at 2017, and at 2018, Chris Menson asked at the Q&A when Thrall would be coming back. And apparently now he will be coming back, but that will be saved for a spoiler section. And something I found interesting, as well as many people on the internet, was that his armor has updated and he kind of looks like his father, Durotan from Warlords of Draenor, with the same, wolf pelt cape on his shoulders. And, he no longer has the shaman beads around his neck. He looks very Frostwolf clan now. Setting up parallels with how his father, was maybe honorable and, stood up to, a tyrannical ruler and tried to do what was right. So that's all very interesting.
And updated model does mean that, we can probably expect some more story progression, which we'll go into very shortly as well. But we have some other models, some other updates to show you guys too. It's a bunch of visual things. We have the Azshara Eternal Palace sets.
Yes.
So on the topic of
as
armor.
we were discussing before with Sloot, these were a little bit controversial because they all have a fish theme, but it feels like only the mythic set gets the fish details. And I think people like the mythic cloth variant, but the rest they're kind of meh on, especially Mal.
Yeah. So as you can see, we're now going through the cloth pieces. So this one here and this one, immediately you can tell how it's so different from the previous ones that were shown, and this is the mythic version. So the other difficulties, like normal, heroic, they just don't look interesting at all, and then there's quite a big jump into the mythic version of it, and it's a trend that we see with all of the different armor sets. Let's go into, let's see. We can look at the leather version here.
I think what makes people, critical about these sets is that in their mind, they think that the art team made 12 sets per raid, and now they are making 4 sets per raid, so the set should be way better because they can spend more time developing them. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, there's only so much stuff you can put on a model, but I do think that, the normal heroic and raid finder sets aren't really themed around fish and Azshara. They look kind of generic.
Yeah. A lot of people say they look like leveling gear, and they really do.
Yeah.
So this is the mythic version of leather. For the leather armor set. And then these are the other difficulties. We can also go into the male version here. And
I don't know what's up with male. It's like the curse of male gear.
Always the shortest straw. Don't know why. And something that I also realized from reading a comment is, why is it like a full robe? Imagine if you're a hunter. Isn't it kind of weird to be wearing a full robe as a hunter?
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Maybe they'll have variations. Like I think in the past sometimes they you data mine the skirt, but they add pants later on, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think normally they have matching pants, but then the question is if they'll have a matching separate chest, which isn't a full robe, to actually show off the legs.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be. So you can choose to show off the legs. Yeah, and then this is the mythic version. It's not very special. There's a bit of detail around the shoulders, but not that much. And last but not least, we have the plate version here. And these are the different ones. Yeah, you go on.
I mean, again, it's like the mythic one isn't bad, but that should be the normal gear, in my opinion.
Yes, I actually agree with that. Because I don't know if it's too much to expect for mythic to look more flashy. But I feel like the way that they made the mythic now, that's how all the other difficulties should have been, with different tints. And then the mythic one should have some other kind of, maybe a glowing effect, or some other kind of maybe something moving, maybe. I mean, I guess we don't know. Maybe something is moving here, but it's a still picture. But something that makes it stick out a little bit better.
You'll show later on the model thing, but I actually think some of like the beginner PvP gear is really good because it's like they have all these weird barnacles and gems on top of the armor, and I feel like maybe the Azshara palace sets take the fish theme a little too literally, and don't, it's like, oh, like mythic put a fin on it, but it's like, well, you could have weird eyeballs like Azshara. You could have extra.
Oh yes, missed out on more eyeballs.
Elven, I don't know, like purple highborn, weird tinted armor reflecting her old kingdom. You could go in more directions than just like it has to be a fish.
That's actually so true. We should have had creepy eyeballs moving on shoulders or on the headpiece, everywhere.
Yeah, like a missed opportunity with like 5 eyes, something like that. Or Circle of Stars and King of Diamonds, if all of that's a prophecy, have weird constellation things. Like Uldar, you've had a few constellation weapons. There could be stuff like that.
Do we have any gear with creepy eyes? Or any armor?
Yeah.
Can you think of any armor that we currently have which kind of has a like creepy eyes look?
There's actually the tier 6 hunter set from Black Temple has the blinking eyeball on the helm and shoulders. And I know like Mr. Pandaria had the Shah themed weapons that were kind of touched by the void. We're actually data mining closest after. Apparently the shoulders worn by Herald of N'Zoth will be a transmog drop from the raid, and they look kind of old god with eyeballs, but I think it would have been cool if you could basically have Azshara's robe, like her elven robe, or something with all that crazy jewelry on it, or her crown as some that could have worked as some of the cloth sets. I think that would have been interesting.
I thought back to Mage Challenge mode, but it wasn't exactly a creepy eye. It's sort of like it's not exactly a creepy eye. But yeah, I think it's a very good point. I think that is something that we could have seen more of. I think they could have been very creative with that. And it's an interesting point that Sloot made, because the art in general in the zones and everywhere is amazing, and the armor kind of always kind of lays behind
Yeah.
with the sets, at
Um,
least as of lately.
yeah, I feel like people responded kind of well to the Zara lore, especially the cloth and leather.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and even the normal sets people liked. I mean, I don't know, people never like the male set, but they seem to respond better to cloth and leather. And Uldir was very meh, even though the weapons were cool. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're just adjusting to this new art philosophy. But yeah, it's too bad that they didn't kind of take the energy from Bizarre Lore and explore more of the influences. I'm sure the art's very difficult to make. Obviously, I've never made a single piece of art in my life. A wearable tier set, but it is, yeah. I think it's interesting feedback, especially when you look back at past expansions and it's like, Mr. Pandaria challenge mode set, or how mythic sets can be pretty elaborate, and
Mm-hmm.
Azshara is known for being very excessive and luxurious. I felt they could go more over the top.
Mm-hmm. I'm showing a slideshow now of the different weapons that we can
Oh, this
find
is cool. Yeah.
at the Azshara Eternal Palace. And there are tons of weapons in here. I should probably put the timer on something faster so we can go through them a bit
Yeah.
better. Let's fix that. But yeah,
So
there's
not
so
a ton
many.
to say about these
Mm-hmm.
because they're all called PH in the data right now. But I really like the ones that have this sort of shimmery iridescent effect. Like there's this dagger that looks pretty cool. A crossbow's got a shimmery effect on the sides. Some of the tints, the gold and purple, I think would actually go really well with Void Elf Heritage armor.
Yes, that's actually a very good point.
I know when I did a tweet highlighting the gold and purple ones, people thought that's what it was at first. I
Oh,
didn't
really?
realize it was great armor. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
Oh, yeah, gold and purple.
yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. I remember I struggled a lot to find a weapon that I was happy with. So on my Void Elf, I was using a staff, and I ended up using the staff from WoD Challenge mode because it was
Right.
kind of golden and purple, but it's not the right shade. So I wasn't 100% happy with it, but it was still pretty cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the Warglaive and fist weapons are also pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think the weapons are pretty spot on overall. I think the Najatar staff resembles the staff Azshara is using, and the wand also. So the weapons have a lot of flavor to them, I think more so than the armor sets right now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And then we have some more weapons, which are from Mechagon,
Mechagon.
rather. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
so
a bit more
as which is
steampunky.
covered with Sloot,
Mm-hmm.
we were like, oh, some of these look cool. We were like, oh, they do cool procs, but they also have a kind of steampunk vibe to them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we've got a lot of cogs and gears. We even have like a mega mechanical fishing pole that's got like a lightning at the end of it, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The staff I think is really awesome. How it's like the electric coil, and there's a ray gun that you can shoot out that has like coils around it. That's also pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the armor from Mechagon doesn't have appearances yet. I'm not sure if it will, but I think it would be nice if it did. But the weapons are all, very gnome themed, which is good.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing the armor. I think that it's going to look better than the
Najatar. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. I think it's going to look cooler, and I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Actually, before we move on to the next topic, I think I'd like to show the Mechagnomes. Speaking of
Okay, yeah,
more
let's do
mechanic
that.
looking
Nice.
things.
Well, Yeah,
They
let's do
look
that.
really cool. Here, let me get it here. Ba, 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 ba. For example, we have examples of a Mechagnome female different hairstyles. And it just looks so cool. They're part gnomes. Their arms and legs are mechanical, and I don't know. I just love it.
I really like their hairstyles too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I love how they have the gear in their bun and ponytail.
Oh, I didn't
And
notice that. Yes,
yeah, they've
that's
got
a
cute
good point.
accessories.
Mm-hmm. That
And like
is
the
really
curly
cute.
swooped hair. I think that that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So
these
for
are in Wowhead's dressing room,
mm-hmm.
and you can, dress them up. They have different customization options. You can put armor on.
I also have a male version to show you guys. There we go. All the different hairstyles. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you guys the male body instead, as it shows a lot more of how the full body of a Mechanome. There we go. And it seemed like you can choose slightly different shades of skin color, but also choose a slightly different tint of the mechanical part of the body. And that's also really cool.
Yeah, there are 5 tints of the skin and then 3 tints of the body.
Mm-hmm.
The mechanical stuff. I believe in game there are options on the face that also change, but for the data available to pull into the dressing room, we didn't have the, face cogs and all that.
Yeah, fair enough. Makes sense.
But yeah, this is the culture that, worships robots and mechanical parts, so they are, very not into having natural limbs. No allied races in 8.2, but of course people are wondering if they will be an allied race because, they've been coded in a way to be dressed up and posed and customized in the dressing room.
And on the topic of gnomes, I guess we could move on to talk about the heritage armors that are coming into the game in 8.2. We have new heritage armor for both gnomes and taurens. And the gnome one looks like this. What do you think of the heritage armor?
Is the Gear Commander set. And the in addition to armor, these races get a little something extra for doing the quest. The gnomes get something called a gear tracker beacon, where you can request a pickup to the nearest flight master. Oh. So it's like a flight master whistle for gnomes.
So only gnomes can use it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I like that. To get your own special toy, an extra flight whistle.
Yep.
And isn't there another... Wait, let me go back to this thing.
You've got the Tauren.
Isn't there... Yeah, I'm going to show the Tauren in a second, but I was just thinking, isn't there a perk that you can choose which makes your flight whistle, if you're already at a flight master, take you back to Borealis?
Oh, yeah. I wonder how that's going to work.
So then you could use the toy to get to flight master, and then you can use the actual flight whistle to get back to Borealis.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Could be... Yeah.
Because I always wondered, like, why would you already be at a flight master if you want to use the flight master whistle?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
But with that, you can combine it, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's show the Tauren one as well. Here we go. Showing.
So they have the gigantic totem on their back.
Feels very Thunder Bluffy. It actually looks really cool. I like it.
Yeah, it's cool how they have like a very distinctive silhouette. Like each heritage armor set has something different. It's not just like, oh, here's a ornate helm. It's like, well, here's a gigantic log on your back.
No, I like it, and I like the color theme as well. It looks
Yeah.
cool. And speaking of colors, going back to the gnome had a sort of purple theme, and I like that too. I like that sort of royal purple color.
Yeah, it's very Gnomergan, the purple and
Mm-hmm.
bronze mix of colors.
Mm-hmm.
So the Tauren Heritage Armor you get after completing the war campaign, because that will deal with, Baine Bloodhoof and the, story as well for the Heritage Armor, also is related to Baine.
Mm-hmm.
And when you complete that, you also get an item called the Ancient Tauren Talisman, and it summons your spirit guide for a moment. Show your ancestral pride.
Mm. So is it like a visual thing?
Yeah. We don't know, but we think that's what it is. So it doesn't
Okay.
seem as practical as
Yeah.
the tracking beacon,
Mm-hmm.
but could seem appropriate to Tauren culture.
Okay. That's cool. So they both got a toy each. The Blood Elf did not get any toy, did they? Or is it not a toy? Is it just an item?
These are just items, so they don't count towards the toy box, but they just
Okay.
sound cool, so
Okay.
we're going to call them toys.
All right. That's fair enough.
The Blood Elves got the version that had pants, though, so they had, alternate versions of the set, right? They got the tunic and the robe.
Mm-hmm. So they can choose.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. We have some more armor sets to show you guys, but I think I need to sneeze first.
Okay, no worries.
Maybe not. Oh god, I have such a bad cold. Excuse me. All right, let's jump into it. Yeah, we have the PvP armor set, PvP aspirant armor set to show you guys, and we have the different versions for the different armor types as well. Let me get them up on the screen. Here, we can start with the cloth set. Bless you. Thank you, guys. There we go. There were multiple versions of this. Wait, let me read what they were again. So we have the Alliance Aspirant, we have the Horde Aspirant, and then we have the Alliance Gladiator and Horde Gladiator. At least for the cloth set. We don't have everything for all of the armor types. There's some missing, right?
No, cloth and plate are pretty complete. Leather, we don't have anything,
Mm-hmm.
and now we just have a few.
Yeah. So for cloth, we have all of them. And nothing for leather. And the Gladiator sets for male.
Yeah. So I think that the cloth aspirant is the coolest set by far. Because it kind of looks like Kultiris, except like you're underwater, almost like Derek Proudmore. It's got bubbles at the bottom and a fishing net, and then you've got barnacles growing out of your shoulders and hat. So I think that's one of the most creative sets.
And it's also got that sort of band that covers the face. Half. It covers one of your eyes, almost piratey.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. The Gladiator sets are...
They're just recolors.
Yeah, they're not super special.
If you can find the plate aspirant sets, they might be more interesting because they've got coral, seaweed.
There we go. They're on the screen now. Oh yeah, a similar idea there. Having that kind of look as if it's been underground or under the sea for a while.
Yeah. I think these sets are the most creative. I wanted to see more of this style on the actual raid gear.
So this is the PvP aspirant for plate. Well, this one is not aspirant anymore. This is the PvP gladiator set for plate. This is the aspirant one. Wait, we have Alliance, Gladiator. Yeah. Why did the cloth sets... Wait. Did the cloth ones show different ones? Wait, let me double check. So this is the Horde Gladiator cloth set. And this is the Alliance Aspirant set. And the Horde version of this one is basically a reddish version of it. And this is the Alliance Gladiator set for the cloth. I don't think there was any raid gear showing.
No.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the leather pieces are missing, but we have a couple male pieces to show as well.
Yeah. These are just, the Nazjatar and the Gladiator have the same appearance, just different colors.
Mm-hmm. So for the male, we have the Alliance and Horde Gladiator sets. Yeah, I can see how it was a little bit confusing with the Aspirant and Gladiator being in the same rotation.
Yeah.
I should have probably separated the two. And yeah, that's it for the PvP gear, where we have no leather armor as of yet to show. Probably next week, maybe the week after. We'll see. It's normally added over time. And yeah, that's it for the different model updates. What we have besides that are fun stuff like mounts.
Yeah, still some cool models though.
Oh, did I miss something? What did I miss?
Oh, no, I mean, like, the mounts look cool
Oh,
as well.
yeah, they do look cool as well, yes. They're just new, full stop, rather than updated models. So which one do we show first?
I think we show the wheel.
Yes, I agree. I'm glad you picked the wheel. This is the one. A lot of people are really excited seeing this wheel when they when Warcraft had the presentation on 8.2, because it's unique. It's like, what word do I use? I think unique is probably the best thing. It's cool, it's unique, it's different. It's I don't know if it's very visible here in this slide, but you basically are sitting inside the wheel. It's really cool. And the mount is called Keys to the Model W.
Yep, and this is a reward for completing Mechagnomes, which you must complete a bunch of achievements in Mechagon. And the rapid technological evolution of the descendants of Mimiron began with the introduction of a new gear, leading to such wonders as the tragically underproduced Model W.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. I believe there is a alternate color of it.
Okay.
If I scroll down in the notes, that is from a different source. Oh, there's so many mounts. Oh, yeah. There's a rare mob called Rust Feather, and that one drops a rusted version of the wheel. So they're different colors, which is cool.
Yes. I believe I have a picture of that somewhere. But yeah, it's basically a rusted version of this one, so that's cool. There's two versions of it.
Yeah. The next mount we should highlight is Fabius.
Yes.
It was fabulous.
A very, very mighty, pretty mount. There it is. This is Fabius. Fabius, meet chat. Chat, meet Fabius. No, but this looks amazing. I really like it. It reminds me a little bit of the what's the model called? Like the Dreamweaver Paragon mount.
Oh yeah, the unicorns that we shouldn't call unicorns.
Yes.
The horse mount.
It reminds me a little bit of those. Especially this color reminds me of the reward for 100 reputations.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know which one you mean. Yeah, the pure heart courser.
Yes, that's it. So where's Fabius from?
We don't know, but he just has the description. He emerges from the water, fins swaying lazily in the breeze, sun-kissed scales glittering. He is Fabius.
He is Fabius. I like it.
And there are a few other colors of the ink scale Deep Seeker and the Crimson Tide Stallion, and we don't know where these are from yet either. I know people are making jokes being like, oh, they're horses. Oh, Alliance gets another horse, except people actually like the horse this time.
Yeah, because it's a bit different now. I have a, let's see. Actually, no, I don't. I thought I did. I thought I had a slide with all the different colors, but I guess not. Maybe not. Maybe later. But yeah, we can show off the crab. That's actually a really cool one too.
Yeah.
Here it is. There we go. The Snapback Scuttler. Also another one that was shown on the presentation that people were very excited about. It's another thing which is interesting about it is when you mount this, you kind of sit sideways on it. You don't stand on it normally. Crab Brave, yeah. It's actually a very good point. I can imagine loads of raids of people just forming, getting together, dancing.
Yeah, we have a video up on Wowhead's YouTube showing the animations in action and how you, when you move forward, the crab is facing sideways, and that does look pretty.
Yes. Crabs walk sideways. Do crabs actually walk sideways, or what's the?
Yeah.
They actually do.
Yeah, they do.
I've never really thought about it. Wow. Well, okay. I guess that makes sense then. So they do walk sideways. Interesting. We also have the yellow fathom ray. Wait, this crab, do we know where the crab is from?
No, it just says Nazjatar.
Okay. Yeah, the next mount.
You know where the next one's from?
Yes, we do. The yellow fathom ray. There we go. This one's from achievements, right?
Yeah.
Glory of achievement.
Yep.
Time to farm them. Get all the achievements. Get your new mount. I'm not necessarily super excited about this one. I don't know. It doesn't feel like special, but it's okay. I mean, it's another mount. Obviously, there's an achievement tied to it as well, so I'm gonna go for it.
What I think is cool is how the armor looks on it. Like it's a ray, but then it has this harness attached to it that goes through its wings. And if you look at the underbelly, it's all harnessed together. So, and I like how there's stripes on it and dots. It's very detailed when you look at it, and there's something soothing about the animation. And I think there are matching hunter pets. So I know hunters like matching their mounts and pets, and they can do that.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah, I actually didn't notice the harness before you mentioned it.
Yeah, it's subtle, but I think it works. Speaking of armor and on mounts, we data mined versions of the Tide Stallion mounts with even more armor, and they look pretty glorious. Maybe this is the version with multiple colors you were talking about.
Yeah, but for some reason I can't. Give me a second. I'm gonna get them. I think I have them somewhere. Yeah, okay, I found it. Here it is. Yes. So there are multiple colors or tints of the Tide Stallions, which have a special armor on them.
Yeah.
Making them look a little bit different.
Yeah, I think these are the versions that are mounts, and then the unarmed ones are around Nazjatar. But we're not quite sure. And they're all really pretty. Only 3 mounts are data mined, but there are 5 colors, so I hope we see all colors.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Really
one or two might be saved for like a future achievement recolor.
Yeah.
Usually that's what happens.
It's like, everyone is like in the future, like, oh, some desert zone, and we just happen to get a seahorse.
Yeah, they're really pretty. I like them.
So, our final mount we will be highlighting is the bee mount.
Yes, a reminder of the bee mount that was first mentioned at BlizzCon. We still don't know exactly where it's going to be, but there's been a little bit of speculation.
Yeah, so based on new factions, spells, and quests, it seems that we're going to need Bumbles, the bee pet from Stormsong Valley, and we're going to need to summon Bumbles and then find somebody that speaks bee, and there's going to be some sort of rep turn-in to gain bee friendship as we move from drone, honeybee, hive mother to queen, and there are new quests where we keep finding more and more people to speak bee. So this could be a cute little
Sounds
quest.
so cute. Speak bee. So adorable. But yeah, so it seems like we're going to do a little bit of possible questing or item farming to grind a new reputation, and then this could potentially be the reward of a quest chain or a reputation.
Yeah.
Increasing your friendship level to the queen bee.
And I think there was some discussion that it was hinted this would be alliance only, because I think there was some joke like, oh, alliance are only getting horses, but well, there's a bee. But there's nothing been confirmed either way. We don't actually have a bee mount in the mount journal for us to look at.
Yeah. So we don't know yet. And I think that's it on the mount news for now.
Yeah.
But before we go into the next topic of lore, which is a pretty big one, because there's been a lot of new texts available now in the 8.2 PTR, we'd like to thank the subscribers. We have Lincoln with the 16 months, Warwolf as a new subscriber, and Ashley Bithia with the 13 months. Thank you guys very much. And we'd also like to remind you guys of the giveaway that is going on right now. If you type eggs in the chat, EGGS, you will enter the raffle for a Moonkin hatchling. And the reason for eggs is Easter, since this is Easter week. Maybe we should have added a little bit of Easter decoration, actually, now that I think of it.
Yeah, maybe there could have been eggs behind me.
Yeah, could have had some eggs behind us. And also, if you guys have any questions, you can @Sass. He is a moderator in the chat, and he will keep track of those questions for the end of the show.
Cool. Well, we're going to have a little bit of story time with some data mined broadcast text. So we'll put the spoiler tag up.
Yes.
But after that, we still have some database updates, and we'll pair a speculation and water striders to discuss, so, stick around.
So the first lore part is a very interesting one. We will see the continuation of what happened to Baine. The last things that we saw of him was giving Derek Proudmoore over to Jaina, and we all know, including himself and Jaina, that that was probably not the safest thing for him to do. And now we have a little bit of story development on this, but I'll let Perk go through this, as she is the lore master of the two of us.
Aww. So, based on broadcast text, which is a bunch of dialogue options, we try to sort out into a coherent story. The war campaign will actually have us rescue Baine, chained up in Argamore, but there's some twists and turns. So, on the Alliance side, Jaina is asked by Anduin to help rescue Baine, and Anduin thinks that she will be hesitant because she dislikes the Horde, but she goes along without hesitation because Baine saved Derek. And then on the Horde side, a Tauren shaman shows Lorthamar a vision of Baine's execution, and then Lorthamar tells these unnamed allies that it's time to move on some plan. So we then find Jaina and Shaw as a group, and then Sourfang and Thrall, who's finally back, also in Argamar, all convening in Baine's prison area. Now, the interesting twist is that Baine isn't happy to see us at first because Sylvanas has planted a trap. She's put Baine in this very public area, hoping it would bait us into rescuing him, because as we're rescuing him, the Sunreavers come to attack us, and they want revenge on Jaina for killing innocents during the Purge of Dalaran in Mists of Pandaria, which I know comes up all the time whenever people talk about, factions and is Jaina sympathetic or not. People highlight, how some innocents lost their lives in the Purge of Dalaran, so it's cool to see Blizzard actually reference that and, not just sweep that under the rug. However, we are successful at rescuing Baine, and everyone working together leads the Alliance Horde to rethink things and have a truce when they go and fight in Nazjatar. And this also raises the question of how much does everyone know about Anduin freeing Sourfang? Because when everyone meets up, everyone is surprised to learn the other is helping. So you have to wonder if Anduin is masterminding something because Baine is his friend, but he's not letting on to anyone that they have this secret allegiance. So, yeah, what do you think of the story?
I think it's really exciting. There was a lot of text there. I apologize if I was showing them in the different orders, but I think that's really exciting having all of these very important figures get together, and we. It feels like something is finally happening. Before we had Starfang go against, and we were wondering, okay, what is Starfang going to do now? Is he going to work with the Alliance, or is he going to have a separate horde, or like what's going to happen? And with this Baine imprisonment, it feels like it was in a way the final thing, the final icing for a lot of the other important figures to also get involved. So now the real action is happening.
Yeah, I would be curious to. So Thrall doesn't actually say very much in the text, and I would be curious to see that reunion between Sourfang and Thrall.
Yes.
There's still lots of unanswered questions. And how much does Anduin know about Thrall's involvement? Because Jaina makes it seem like she doesn't know. She's like, "Oh, I was helping rescue, and then Sourfang showed up unexpectedly." So it's like, does she not even know what Anduin's doing? And
Yeah.
Lord Thamor's like, "I can't believe Jaina was helping." So it's like, well, he probably doesn't know that Anduin freed Sourfang if he's surprised the Alliance helped. So maybe this is actually something kind of politically astute for Anduin. Maybe this is actually something cunning he did for a change.
Do you think they'll take it positively if he kept it to himself?
I think to a certain extent, and then maybe after, if Sourfang's rebellion takes place and goes well, maybe they would reveal the plan after, or maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe go have your own culture, and rule. Just do what it takes to remove Sylvanas from the throne because she's a threat to all of our kingdoms. I don't think Anduin doesn't take over the Horde. He just doesn't want war.
Yeah. And if they do dethrone Sylvanas, do you think we'll be seeing Thrall up there?
Well, that's what Chris Menson was hinting at.
Right?
I'm really curious, though, how they're going to not go full Siege of Orgrimmar, because this seems very Siege of Orgrimmar right now.
It does feel like it. With more and more figures getting together against her, it does feel a lot like it. I'm very curious how they're going to make it different, because they specifically said it's going to be different.
Yeah, well, they said there's going to be similar. We'll notice more parallels, but it won't be exactly the same, and that Sylvanas is not the type who will see herself in chains at all. So, like, will we confront her, but then Sylvanas is going to, like, I don't know, like, maybe with Helia comes to fruition and she, I don't know, escapes or runs off or disappears somewhere, but it does seem very similar. I mean, we seem to be in, like, Throne of Thunder right now, where it's like, oh, and now Vol'jin will lead the rebellion in 5.3, and here we got, Sourfang leading the rebellion in 8.3. So, yeah, the stories do seem really similar. The only thing I can think of is that Sylvanas does seem to be more cunning and has a lot more followers on her side. And as we keep seeing, there's this element of player choice, but it seems canonically someone is always ratting us out to Sylvanas. Even in having Baine escape, we have an option at one point to tell Nathanos about the plan.
Yeah.
And so it seems like everyone knew that Garrosh was bad except for his orc followers, but it seems now more people are following Sylvanas, so I don't know if the twist is going to be something sad like, oh, we try a rebellion and we fail. Like, that would be really sad to see on screen, but I wonder if we'll diverge at that point, and some people still support her, like the Forsaken.
If we would fail and possibly lose a leader or two. It's interesting because they also compared it to, or not compared it, but they described it as the comparison between Sylvanas and Garrosh is like what Garrosh did was child's play or something like that, right?
Yeah, an amateur.
An amateur, that's it. Yes. So that also makes you wonder, what is that supposed to mean? That means she's not just going to be a boss and we kill her and it's over. There's going to be something more to it.
Right, or it's like, Garrosh destroyed the Veil, and now Sylvanas has Xalatath. What is she gonna... Is she gonna do something even worse with that weapon? So...
Indeed.
But that's not it in the broadcast text. We also have Azshara's story, which is quite twisty. We went over this a few times before the show, just because it was so twisty. So... As we mentioned, both sides form this truce and decide to go to Nazjatar to fight Azshara. We've got Jaina and Chandris on one side, and then Lor'themar and the first Arcanist on the other side. Jaina and Lor'themar is interesting because, again, going back to the Purge of Dalaran, obviously Jaina killing the Sun Reavers did not endear her to the Blood Elves. But they put their differences aside and they work. And we get to Nazjatar. Our fleets are ruined. And Azshara has a trap for us. We first encounter Lady Ashvane, who we think we're going to defeat, but then at the last minute, Azshara empowers her and turns her into a monstrous sea giant. So that's not really good for us. And she's later a boss in the raid.
Yeah, so this is the form that we will fight when we eventually go into the raid, right?
Yeah. And then Azshara sort of roots us in place and shows us a vision of N'Zoth corrupting the world, which is clever because we're all like, oh, we don't want to corrupt him, and we keep focusing that we don't want to corrupt him, but we don't think about how maybe we're inadvertently helping Azshara. So she sort of takes, by putting the obvious in front of us, we sort of tunnel vision on how, we're not going to do anything obvious to free him. But as we do learn, she will trick us again.
Yep.
We also learn that the pillar from Legion, the Tidestone of Golganeth, we retrieved that and, put it in Dalaran, in the Tomb of Sargeras, but when we went off fighting our faction war, she stole it back, and that's why she's been able to do a lot of these powerful things. So we then try to steal it back again and use it with the Javelin of Suramar to enter the palace, which is the raid. As a side story, the first Arcanist and Chandris are also exploring Nazjatar, and there's some interesting flashback dialogues where we see the ghosts of the Highborn city reliving the moment where it was destroyed. And we actually interact with some ghosts that were their friends in, a past life. Sort of humanizing them some more. I think one of the first Arcanist pupils is, she turned corrupted and now she is the first boss in the raid. So that was a nice twist. However, it's strange we're even trying to do anything because Azshara tells us she can see everything we're doing, and she starts interjecting snarky asides in our conversation. Like, I don't know if you have this one on screen, but, we'll be discussing something like, how do we get here? And she's like, oh yeah, she's like, I'm expecting you, get here faster. Or, someone will introduce themselves and she's like, oh, you think you're a queen, but you're not really anything, and she just keeps showing up to put us down.
I'm not sure. Wait, there's actually so many texts here.
Yeah.
I've got one here when she's butting into Thalyssra.
Yeah.
this one here. So she just comes in with her line. And what else do we have?
I mean, there's a lot more in the broadcast text, but there's just like a lot of little, snarky jabs she has. Oh yeah, she makes fun of Tyrande. She's all like, "Oh, she's like, why are you upset with me for taking the Tidestone? If you have it, your war chief will do something horrible with it, or Tyrande will run off and do something, forbidden ritual with it."
Yeah, I found that one. I got it. Yeah, there's a lot of broadcast texts.
Yeah. But the big reveal is that, we fight through the palace, and she says a lot of funny theatrical things. Like she's always expecting us, she's talking about everything being like elegant, and we're putting on the show for her, and it's entertaining. But then when we get to her, she reveals that empowering the heart of Azeroth and healing it was needed to shatter N'Zoth's prison. And, now she will take her rightful place as Queen of the Black Empire. And Magni was a fool all along, pawn, which plays into the Il'gynoth prophecy. So,
and this was what we were fearing.
Yep, we were concerned that we would just empower this volatile Azerite and then bring it straight to Azshara, who had a good use for it, and that's what happens.
Yep.
Which makes me wonder what's going to happen to Azerite 0.3. We're going to have a different system if it's like, oh yeah, powering the neck is really horrible. Maybe we should stop doing this.
Yeah, like maybe we should stop farming AP, guys. Yeah. Probably better to have less AP so that we don't power it anymore. But yeah, this is what we were fearing, that what we're doing is what will set N'Zoth free.
Like just playing right into her hands, just being power crazy, doing whatever it takes instead of thinking first. And so the encounter journal, it's not complete as we said before, but it's basically talking about how she's trying to break and loosen the seals of his prison during the fight. And we don't know the full fight, but we do know, based on what Lord Thamar says at the end, that our victory rings hollow. Azshara's master will rise. Nothing can stop that now. So maybe she's imprisoned or died, but the threat of N'Zoth is very real.
I mean, on one hand, it's like exciting. That means like, whoa, something crazy is going to happen. N'Zoth, may potentially be free, and what's going to happen next? But at the same time, it feels weird that Azshara might just die there.
Yeah, I mean, she's such a fascinating character.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we've had a boss talk to us, ever so much. And she's really interesting. She's got a good sense of humor. She's, this highly anticipated presence. And it seems to be a bit of a lost opportunity to kill her off, but I almost wonder if she would come back later, like if N'Zoth, if N'Zoth or the old gods have some connection to the Shadowlands, and there's almost talk about resurrecting those that have died, maybe Azshara would be brought back to life in an upcoming patch.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. She just seems very interesting to, I don't know, she seems like she could be used more, especially if there's still a lot more untold Night Elf story, with Tyrande. Tyrande's not present. She's in Darkshore through all this, I think. And it seems that a lot of the Night Elves would have ongoing thoughts about Azshara or, Lady Liadrin or anyone that was present for the Suramar campaign. So, I don't know. Hopefully she'll continue. I guess it means it's a good thing that we're sorry she could die, because her dialogue was really fun to read.
No, I feel like they're. I mean, on one hand, I want to say that I think we will see a lot more of her, but at the same time, if N'Zoth is out there, then maybe that'll take over everything, so we don't need her presence. But I don't know. I was in a way
I don't know.
expecting
It
some
could be
kind of
more
epic
Stardust.
fight.
I remember everyone was losing their mind. Warbringers.
Yeah. I was almost expecting some kind of epic fight between the two as well, since they were kind of playing each other
Yeah.
with the power.
I
Like,
was
who was
almost
in
wondering
power?
if he was going to try to pull one over on him,
Mm-hmm.
or if N'Zoth, if she tried to rebel, and then
Yeah.
N'Zoth tried to like have us put her down, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe this was all a fake out. I was wondering if there's gonna be more plot twists, but it's still a
Yeah.
really good, you know, plot twist that the heart of we were doing something bad
Yeah.
and stupid with the heart of Azeroth.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like, uh-oh, these necks are not good.
Yeah.
We are bringing N'Zoth back ourselves. Yeah, we have one more lore
Before we go
section.
on to the next topic, there's
Mhm.
another interesting Lorthmar detail.
Okay, go for it.
He, so, because N'Zoth's free and everyone, they can't fight an old god while they're divided. And, everyone's been doing a great job at dividing us. He realizes that there will always be division with Sylvanas in charge. And he pledges to stand with Sourfang Thrall and their rebellion to be unified and get Sylvanas off the throne.
Yeah.
So that's pretty drastic from him, considering he knew he was bothered by things, but he didn't want to hurt his people, especially after such losses at the hands of Arthas. And he knew Sylvanas before, her tragic transformation, and was always sort of like playing things very conservatively. So for him to take this step is a big deal for him.
Yep.
And he tells this to Jaina directly, so that's even more of an impact with how, he has no reason to...
This was said to Jaina directly?
Yeah. Because, him and Jaina were not on good terms at the start of this, especially with what happened with the Purge of Dalaran. So, the next, we've got one more broadcast topic and then a little bit of audio. This third topic is on the heart of the Heartforge, and you can do these various quests as you power up the Heartforge. And we check in with a lot of the Dragonflights, which we thought was going to happen because of the island expeditions that kept, introducing them. So, some of the interesting points we have, this is not broadcast text, we've actually played through the quest. One note, so we check up on all the flights. In High Mountain, we see that Rathian sends one of his agents to watch us. And Rathian is sort of obsessed with finding more black dragons. And since Spirit Walker Ebonhorn is helping us in High Mountain, Rathian has now, now he's aware that there is another uncorrupt black dragon out there. And we don't know if that's a good or bad thing, because he was, very concerned about corrupted black dragons out there, and just he didn't want his race to live. But so I don't know, maybe he view Ebonhorn favorably, maybe he view him as a threat. We don't know. Rathian's kind of a mysterious guy. Mother talks about a new Titan facility and doesn't know if it's corrupt or not, and we're like, well, where could this facility be? That's interesting. Maybe we'll go there in a future patch. When we help all the Dragonflights, they are all present, the aspects, except for Nozdormu, which could be suspicious because in a future Timeway, as learned in End Time, he turns into the leader of the Infinite Dragonflight, and the Infinite Dragonflight was also present in the Tailoring Tools of the Trade quest line. So we're like, well, it could just be like, Chromie shows up in his absence, but that it's just sort of suspicious knowing that the Infinite Dragonflight was tied to the old gods, and he gets twisted into that, and he's not present, and old gods are everywhere.
Yep.
Continuing with the bad news, the Twilight Dragonflight, as was hinted on Island Expedition mounts and quests, is back in full force, and they're attacking Alexstrasza in Twilight Highlands. So that's not good news.
Nope.
We learned
Ooh, in
with
Twilight
Azshara
Islands,
that
I
her
actually have
spirit,
some
bad things
pictures.
happened in the Emerald Dream. Her spirit is gone. If you remember, at the end of the raid, she was sort of pacing back and forth in the cleansed version, going to, that weird void flower sort of to warn us about it. So her spirit's gone, so that seems bad.
Yeah.
And as part of that, the Emerald Dream has been corrupted by the void, which is really bad.
Yep.
And the void flower that was tiny behind Xavius in the Legion raid has now taken root, and it's pretty gigantic. And if you remember, if you had Xalatath during the raid, Xalatath used to say, somewhere down there it stirs, something has changed, the last prison weakens, we must prepare.
Oh.
And it's like, oh.
The last prison.
Now we're seeing the effects when things weaken and the dream is corrupt. So that sort of ties into the reveal we mentioned earlier with Azshara, how, we're powering up this heart of Azeroth. We keep finding all these problems around Azeroth hinting at old gods, and then we learn in the Azshara encounter that this was all part of her master plan.
Yeah.
And finally, on a quick note, we've got some kind of very soothing N'Zoth audio lines, if we just want to listen to them.
Ooh, yeah. Let me get those.
Yeah. On the screen, we're going to be showing what he actually says, and then also how his lines resemble old god whispers from past patches, showing that a lot of the prophecies are being complete now, circle of stars and everything making sense.
Let's jump straight into the voice of N'Zoth.
The tide rises. The breaker of chains comes. Your eyes open. Closer. Closer. All paths open. All truths revealed. Our fates are one. Your heart, your offering. All dreams made real. Such a heavy burden you carry. Soon you will be free of it. Your crimes are terrible.
Alright. There you got a taste of that. I don't think I should be muted anymore. Yes, I think everything should be fine.
Can you hear us?
Yes. I think they can hear us. Yes. I just muted myself during that. So, yeah, I couldn't hear anything. Do you want to remind us, Perk, how it sounds?
Sure. So, basically, N'Zoth is hinting that a lot of his plans have come to fruition with us. Referencing lines from past expansions. So, for example, saying things like, your crimes are terrible, numberless, glorious. And then, the puzzle box has been like, Nyalaka is a city of old, terrible, unnumbered crimes, so they directly parallel each other. At one point it says, thief, renegade, murderer, servant, all alone in the depths, let go. And the puzzle box also says, we will be alone in the end. And it's also interesting, because it's like, yeah, we steal all this loot, and we kill everything, and, we're not really awesome heroes. There are things like your eyes open, your awakening draws near, your heart, your offering, all dreams made real, and as we learned, the heart of Azeroth is the actual offering.
Yep. Wait, they don't hear Perk? Wait, could you say something again?
Test, can you hear me?
Oh, N'Zoth is playing again. I'm really sorry.
Oh.
Okay, so Nazoth might have been a little bit loud. That was not meant to be playing. My bad.
Sorry, Nazoth was talking over me.
He's taking over everything already.
Yeah.
Even taking over Wowhead Weekly.
Yep.
All right.
So, what all did people hear me say?
It seems like they could hear both at the same time, so it was difficult to hear you. So if you want to, you can give a quick recap of what you just said.
Yeah. So a lot of the lines that Nazoth says echo past lines showing the prophecy is complete. So, for example, he says now that your crimes are terrible, numberless, glorious. But the puzzle box is like Ny'alotha is a city of old, terrible, unnumbered crimes. At one point, he says, thief, renegade, murderer, servant, all alone in the depths, let go. And the puzzle box says, you will all be alone in the end. Xalatath says, hear me, God of the deep, I have brought you the opener, the bringer of truths, the torch that lights the way. And 8.2 says, all paths open, all truths revealed.
Mm-hmm.
And another line says, your heart, your offering, all dreams made real, which is interesting, as then we learn with Azshara that with the heart of Azeroth, that is what Nazoth needs to break free. So that is the actual offering. And then
your heart, your
because
offering.
that, that fulfills the other Magni, Il'gynoth Whisper, that the King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. So with that, I think we're good on the broadcast text.
Okay. So I guess that means we could remove the spoiler tag.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really exciting. It's scary knowing that our heart of Azeroth is dangerous.
Yes.
It's not just giving us power, it's going to be used against us.
And it makes you wonder what other Il'gynoth whispers will come true.
Yeah.
So we will highlight a few notable database updates and fun items. As mentioned, we data mined thousands of new items. Many of them were armor, which we covered earlier in the show, but there were some interesting toys that we wanted to highlight too. One of them was the Mechanocat Laser Point achievement. You can do a bunch of different things to get different tints to change your cat mount, and we think that's very cool.
Yes, let me show a picture of that actually. There it is.
Yeah.
So it's a mechanical cat, and there are, as you can see on the bottom right, there's different paint vials that allows you to choose the color of it, which is really cool because the idea of having something recolored is something that people have asked about for transmog as well. So does this mean that the possibility to have transmog in the future use ink in a way to recolor?
Oh, that'd be really cool as a dye system. That would be interesting.
Right? That could be really interesting indeed.
Yeah. Another interesting part of the database is that we have 4 mount equipment items. The saddle chute is the emergency parachute. The comfortable barding prevents days while mounted. The inflatable mount shoes are water walking. And the light stuff hoof plates increase ground mount speed by 20%.
20%, yeah. And does that stack with other buffs that you normally have at different areas?
That's a good question. I'm not sure, honestly.
Oh, actually,
we'll see soon, yeah.
I just mouse over it and it says does not stack with other mount speed effects.
Well, there we go.
There you go. Yeah, I like the emergency parachute. So for a lot of classes, you normally have different ways to not take fall damage. If you're a warrior, you can leap. If you're a mage, you can blink or ice block. If you're I don't know what else is there. A lot of classes have ways to not die if you've accidentally fallen off a cliff. But for myself as a warlock, I have nothing. If I happen to jump off, if I happen to jump off a cliff, then I'm basically gonna be dead. There's nothing I can do about it. Except, of course, if I'm carrying gliders, which I actually always do. But it's interesting to know that there's a mount equipment now which can help you with that. You have soulstone, yeah, but let's say you fall off the cliff, right? It's not pre-planned. You fell. You can't cast it while you're falling. I think there used to be a patch where, I don't remember what expansion this was, but you would use your soul, like a soul empowerment ability, and when you use that, if I remember correctly, it meant that you could cast while moving, and then you could cast soulstone while you're falling. I remember doing that at some point, but that was a few expansions ago. But yeah, that's interesting. Having these mount equipments is going to make things a little bit more interesting, which kind of also touches on the topic of the Water Strider. Because the Water Strider already has water walking currently, but with this new update, the Water Strider will lose that, but you can get it again by picking up this equipment.
Yeah. Why don't we take a little detour to that part of the notes now, since we're talking about the Water Strider right now?
Let's do that.
So, yeah. So, yeah, when you log in for the first time in 8.2, you'll receive a message from Nat Pagel about some research he has been doing, which apparently has, decimated the Water Strider population and they can't walk on water anymore. But he's created mount equipment, and you get one in the mail. And then you can buy the equipment for 50 gold from the angler's vendor and his BOA. And the Water Strider now costs 1k down from 5k. Blizzard also explained the choice a bit more. They said they don't want people to be stuck using the Water Strider. If they kept the ability, then, you could stack more mount equipment. Then it would be, the Water Strider that walks on water and can't be dazed, or, and can have slow fall, all these extra things. They did say the Sky Golem doesn't seem nearly as powerful, so it likely won't be nerfed. But people don't like the idea that they had something and then it was removed, and something quirky is now sort of being, like the portals, sort of being more standardized. I wonder if there's anything else they could do, like maybe the Water Strider gives you water walking, but you can't add any equipment to it. It just comes with this one perk, baked in.
That would also be weird, because what if you actually like it and you want to use a different perk?
Right. That's
so there's always a problem.
It's so tricky to
But maybe the Water Strider doesn't lose the water walking ability when hit.
Yeah,
that could have been something, right?
Yeah.
So then you don't have to use it if you're just running around. But it's that little extra perk, just to show the other mounts that this is the mount that's supposed to walk on water.
Right. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, maybe they could give people a title or something else to make them feel special for getting that mount. Because, like we were discussing with tier sets, when you have something and then you feel that something was taken away or you have less choices, it doesn't feel as good.
Yeah, it's not nice to lose things. Same with abilities too. Whenever there's any kind of pruning, people are not happy at all.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to the items, we data mined some new toys. Some of these seem to be toy versions of like PvP items, like faction banners and traveling to your base in AV. But some of them are funny toys. Like, I just have to laugh how there's a toy called Pearl of the Abyss, and the use is, you feel compelled to place the dark pearl upon your head. Why would you do that? It's like, we really do some really dumb things this expansion.
I like how it asks, why would you do that?
Yeah. It's like, why are we taking Azshara's corrupted pearls and embedding them in our heads? One sec.
Oh, I actually missed these PvP ones. So you can use them in the BG to travel back to your base?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's what it seems.
Yeah. Travel to your base in Altric Valley. Useful toys. What else do we have here? Yeah?
There is a Hearthstone from the special Mechagon feature of junkyard tinkering, so you can like find scrap and build things in Mechagon, and that's one of the cool things.
Mm-hmm.
There is Mechagonian steel saw blades from Kill Saw. There is a hyper compressed ocean, which is a reward from a fishing achievement, which I think is cool because a lot of people were sad that, fishing didn't get as much love after, the Underlight Angler.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's about it with toys. But we also, as mentioned, there are the secret fish and where to find them achievement, where you put fish goggles on and then you collect a bunch of secret fish around Azeroth, which sounds very cool. If you missed the show, early part of the show with Sloot, we went over Mechagon loot. I'm going to be doing a post on this because apparently not many people knew about the loot. But if there's a Trash Master cloak and title, and then our favorite robot, Blingtron, is back, Blingtron 7000. Although I'm a bit confused by the icon because it's currently a icon of cheese.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it in the paper. An icon of cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few toys. I'm just like mouse overing a bunch of them. Rewards. Requires you to wear the secret fish goggles. A required fish. And all of them are blue. All the special fish that you have to find.
Yeah. I
Here.
know
Oh,
Secret
now I
Discord
see it.
has already
Blingtron.
been on it. They're like, oh, we found this fish and that fish. I just held off posting because the toys weren't quite working yet, and I wanted to wait for them to be done.
Cheese or Jeeves? Cheese. The picture of Blingtron 7K is literal cheese. It looks moldy, even, actually. It's like green cheese.
Inventory, misc food, sour cheese.
Yeah, it seems like a bug. I don't think Blingtron is gonna look cheesy.
Yeah. So those are some of the notable items, but keep in mind that we've highlighted other notable items that are all in the dressing room, like the Nazjatar sets, and that is the bulk of the new items in this build.
I'm gonna take a quick picture of this to show it as well. You can keep on talking.
Yeah. If you're curious about essences and items, the essences are items, but the tooltips aren't very good, and there's some new data we're processing, so we can actually have pages dedicated to each essence and like a calculator where you can stick the essences in and see what they do. That's just taking more time because, just we need to go over like how we want it to look and customization options and all that, but we do plan on having detailed essence tooltips and pages coming pretty soon.
All
so
right.
that's next
got the
week's
picture.
Cool.
Excuse me. Here it is, Blingtron 7K, and as you can see, the icon looks like cheese.
Yep. We also have a little bit of Vulpera speculation.
Yes.
So, everyone wants Vulpera as the ally race, and in the past, Blizzard has maybe unintentionally leaked races by updating holiday items for, if there's something that has a race like Hollows and Masks, they will add things like Masks, and then there are new races in it, such as Worgen and Goblins. What we've seen now is that there were some new icons, and there were some icons called Beerfest in the style of a bunch of races with names. So, for example, in this picture, we're going to see the Dark Iron Mug, Draenei, High Mountain, Maghar, Nightborn, Void Elves, and curiously, a Vulpera bottle. So the idea is that if everyone else is tied to a playable race, will Vulpera be a thing by Brewfest?
Yep.
Maybe in the future?
And when is Brewfest again?
Usually September or October.
Okay.
It seems kind of soon.
That does feel very soon.
There's a lot of speculation about that. So we will see.
All races and Vulpera. All playable races and Vulpera. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, allied races and Vulpera.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder where they will go with that. I know a lot of people were saying that Vulpera were exceptionally detailed, more so than
Yes, to be a regular
other
race out.
NPC races.
Mm-hmm.
They even had like animations to hold the heart of Azeroth. So maybe something is coming with that.
Mm-hmm. And if they would come, do you think it's going to be Alliance or Horde?
I would think Horde because they were complaining the Alliance were attacking them in like the Zarlor invasions.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And they're on the Horde continent.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on the Zendmari continent.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Because I was hoping it would be Alliance, but after the questing, it does feel like it's most likely going to be Horde.
Yeah, and maybe Mechagnomes would be Alliance then.
Ah, good point. Yes, they could come in together.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a good point. Mechagnomes are actually so cute. I like them.
Yeah. So we're going to head to the not PTR portion of the show because there's some Crucible of Storm stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have any questions for us, let us know and we'll try to answer them.
Mm-hmm.
So Crucible of Storms. This is a mini raid that opened this week, only 2 bosses.
Mm-hmm.
We were discussing this before with Sloot, the overlaps with the NBI season. Why did it come out in the middle of the raids, in the middle of the season by itself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a 2-boss raid. Restless Cabal and Unat, Harbinger of the Void. And apparently on Mythic difficulty, it should be as difficult as Jaina, so maybe we'll actually get a little bit of a fight out of it, which could be cool.
It's comparable to Jaina? Interesting.
Yeah, I think they told Forbes that.
Because the normal and heroic did not feel very difficult. I mean,
yeah.
Granted, obviously we are geared, we are in a way over gearing the content because if you're already doing heroic or higher, you are already sort of over gearing it, so it's not going to be as difficult as when the current raid came out in heroic difficulty. But it's interesting if the mythic difficulty is compared to Jaina. That's interesting.
Yeah. And I think Limit is going to be streaming this time for the first time. So if Unat is kind of a long fight, I think that could be interesting to see Method and Limit battle it out.
I thought Limit decided...
has not had an official... So let's go ahead.
No, sorry, you go ahead.
I was saying Method does not have an official note yet about streaming Crucible, but I mean, they have the past 2 tiers, so we can expect them to. I don't know if they will fly in a Red Bull. It might be weird if the race is, a day long.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think they'll probably skip it for this one. But they'll probably stream from home, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing is that there are Xalatath follow-up quests for Alliance and Horde, which we covered. The timing was interesting because this occurred, minutes before the PTR went up. So you finish the quest, and then you pick up the story from last week where the empty blade is left behind in the raid. And on the Horde side, I don't know, I sort of have an issue with these quests because it's like what I said to Sloot, the quests feel very like you're playing out a solitary campaign. Your character doesn't really have any opinions, because on the Horde side we find this dagger and we say, oh, we think Sylvanas would want it, and we just pick up the dagger, and after we defeat, N'Zoth's lieutenants, and we just give it to her, and it's like, why are we so dumb?
Yep.
Our character makes choices to free Sourfang or do the right thing, and then we accidentally, get the gift from N'Zoth, and then we cleanse it, and we go into the raid, and we defeat them, and then we just take the dagger and give it to Sylvanas. It just does not make sense. And then Alliance side is also funny because when Alliance gets to Unat, they're like, oh, the dagger is empty. So it's like, wait, so even Blizzard thinks in canon that the Alliance, kill things after the Horde? The Alliance is slow to clear the raid?
Oh, I didn't know this. That's funny.
Yeah. And it's just, they're like, oh, Xalatath is gone. This is
Feels
bad.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, we just seem so disorganized and dumb in this raid.
Oh, poor Alliance.
Yeah. But yeah, that there's no cinematic after the raid. There's just these little follow-up quests with Sylvanas and Anduin.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sylvanas sounds very much old gods, as she's like talking about torches to light the way, and like Anduin with lies. And I don't know. I think there's gonna be something happening with Sylvanas as we so that they use the words. I think Jeremy Fiesel used the words in the presentation that like Sylvanas thinks that something is a Nazjatar, but it's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if she's working with the Shara and the old gods, if they made it seem that she was tricked into this trap, but it is suspicious how she wants this dagger and she's sounding like the old gods when she picks it up.
Oh.
Yeah. So that will be interesting.
It will be.
But to end on a higher note,
I just remembered what I wanted to say before.
Yeah.
So you said Limit is going to stream for the first time, and I thought
Yeah.
Limit officially said that they're not planning to stream any raid tiers in the near future.
Yeah, well, they apparently have. Maybe they figured the raid was short, and if everyone, if it was over quickly, maybe people wouldn't count it as a real world first. They would just, it wouldn't be as stressful as, you know, a multi-boss tier,
I guess,
where
okay.
people would have to take off days from work, or, you know, weeks, or and I think it's also St. Jude Charity, which some of their members are involved in, where you stream for the month.
Okay.
For the, you know, children's hospital, and I think some money was going towards that, which you know, it is very nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really good.
As a side note, Steven, who does all of our viewer stuff, is like, oh, he's like waving to the screen from me. The show is great. Here's some new models. Apparently, Lorthamar has some cool new models. So
oh, really?
Yeah, I'll just link it to you.
Okay.
On Discord.
Actually, could you put it in the document?
Oh yeah, I can do that. One sec. There we go. I just put that above classic beta.
Weapons?
So yeah. The in the notes.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Oh, and he also sent me this as the N'Zoth themed eyeball shoulders.
N'Zoth themed eyeball shoulders.
Yeah, I just posted them both in, so you can see them.
Oh, and wait, where are these from?
We think those dropped from the Herald of N'Zoth fight.
Okay, I'm gonna show this on stream as well.
Yeah, they're cool.
Let's see. Let's do it here. It's funny because we were talking about having sets of eyes, and now there is something.
Yeah.
Here. There we go. Those are the shoulders. That look really cool. See, why can't our set, like our armor sets, look more like this?
Set of eyeballs.
Yeah. Why do we look like we have leveling gear when we get the heroic pieces in the raid?
It doesn't even be like, we don't even need a bunch of eyeballs. Like, if we just had the leveling gear, but there was a few eyeballs, you'd be like, this looks normal, but there's an eyeball. Like, I feel weirded out.
And then the weapons were from the raid as well?
No, Lorthamar uses them.
Oh, okay, wait one sec. Let me put them up as well. Here.
It's his two-hand
I see
sword.
them. There we go. I like how things are like live updating as we're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shoulders is the piece of gear, right? And then the head thing is if you decide to keep the gift.
Yeah, we just thought it was artistic license, putting them together.
I agree. It looks great together. It's just a note to people who are watching. I saw people talking about it. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Apparently we had, before we go on to the next topic, we had 2 new subscribers to the channel, Alaskan Gypsy and Shimdog Wastakan. So thank you guys for subscribing and supporting. I feel like my voice is dying.
Yeah. But for our last topic before some brief site updates, we got some classic beta hints. Now keep in mind, Blizzard has not said anything officially on classic beta, but in Blizzard's CDN, their content delivery network, a new entry appeared saying WoW Classic beta. So this edition likely indicates that they're in some sort of testing phase right now. Maybe it's only for employees, maybe it's for an event, we don't know. But it hints that, they obviously named it in a way that gets people excited that they could test it out before, the expansion goes live for real. And if you remember a few weeks ago, the patch 8.2 PTR, there is a build that hit the vendor CDN 2 weeks before the PTR went live. So this could be maybe like a test run setting something up. I don't know anything about a classic beta, but we're obviously looking forward to one, if there is one on Wowhead, because we can refine the data we have a lot more and get the Wowhead client, processing all this information. So I hope they have it. I mean, like, they want it to be bug free and exact and have enough time to adjust to feedback as they've learned from patch 8.0 stuff happening too late.
Yep. Yeah, I think they'll definitely have a beta. Question is for how long.
Yeah, when do you think a beta would hit if there was one?
Are we still estimating beta to hit like end of August?
Yeah, I would think end of August for Classic WoW.
And we're estimating 8.2 for June, July.
I could see beta
like before that, you think?
I think maybe late May. So you have beta as the thing to do in May. Then
the 8.2.
Raid in July, Classic in August.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I thought Classic was going to release in August. There's no official date for it yet, but we are anticipating it to be probably in August, probably end of August even. And SAS wants us to remind you guys that it is the final call for the giveaway. If you'd like to win a Moonkin hatchling, a very cute pet that dances with you, if you type /dance to it, you can type eggs in the chat. EGGS.
And, SAS also sent me a kind of scary Brightpaw pic.
Okay.
Because he's watching the show.
Brightpaw's watching the show.
See it. Yeah.
Let me show this picture. Here. Oh, I need to minimize that. There we go. You guys don't need to see us live anymore. This is the entire stream. Oh, this was when Sloot was around.
Yeah.
He's like, I see myself on the screen. What is that? Is that mom on the screen? Why is she not here?
Exactly. I wonder if he was eating
Brightpaw.
Sass's laptop corner. He does that to mine when he's patient. And I move him away and say, no, cat. And he says, but I'm cute.
All I can see is the white theme. Yes, Sass, you gotta start using dark theme on Twitch.
But yeah, so going back to classic WoW news, we also had our own classic update this past week. You may remember a few months ago we added all the Thoughtbot comments onto Wowhead. And then this week, Alakazam was another site that was around in Classic WoW. It was known more, for guides, and the comments look different, but eventually both sites were owned by Wowhead's parent company,
Okay.
and we thought it was fitting to put those comments onto Classic Wowhead as well. So we have hundreds of thousands of Alakazam comments on our Classic WoW database pages for the, authentic experience.
That's awesome. I really like that.
Yeah.
Having all the old comments on all the old quests and all the everything, it's perfect. Because you'll hopefully, or not hopefully, but you'll probably be struggling with the same things that these people are describing. Because a lot of those things would not make sense today with today's updates in game and everything, but they will make total sense for when playing classics. So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So we hope to have more things soon, especially if there is a beta. But we're happy that we're continuing to refine the site as we go along.
Apparently we have a winner.
Oh, we do.
Nardessa. Nardessa is the winner. So
Yay.
Nardessa will need to respond within 2 minutes to SAS to claim the prize. And if that's successful, then we are... Yes. Thank you. Perfect. Done. Awesome. We have a winner. I hope you enjoy your pet. It's very cute.
Yep. You can't get it anymore.
Oh, yeah. It's part of the archived items. Yeah. Yes, I remember.
So, what else is new on Wowhead? As a reminder, we have Crucible of Storms guides, strategy guides. They are written by Fat Boss TV, who also does video previews and guides. They are being updated every day this week as we learn more about the raid. And we also have our class writers are doing class recommendations. What are the best builds you should use in Crucible of Storms? The data is actually pulled from Warcraft logs, and then they have spec-specific tips as to any, gear or unique responsibilities you may have on every encounter. And then, as you may have guessed from earlier in the show, the dressing room is updated with the Mechagnomes and tons of new armor and weapon sets for you to try out. So amazing job by our team for getting all of these classic and
that is
BFA
amazing.
updates out this week.
Wait, is it Mechagnomes or Mechagnomes?
Mechagnomes. I think I just added a few ohms.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, after seeing the pictures today, I feel like I kind of fell in love with the Mechagnomes. I think they're actually so cute.
Yeah.
So I look forward to having that as an allied race eventually. My first character actually used to be a gnome, and then I race changed her once to human, and that was when transmog was introduced. Because I felt like transmog just looked better on a human body. Oh, Speaking of transmog, I wonder how transmog will look on a Mechagnome body. Hey, Luna.
When in the dressing room post, we actually previewed it on a few races, and if you have a robe, it goes over the legs. If you have pants, the pants go away. But you can kind of dress them up. Like hats work, shoulders work, some extra parts on gloves show through, belts work, robes work. So you can get pretty far with them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Looking
I was
forward to
asking
that.
on Twitter a few days ago for steampunk transmog because I was trying to put together good
images.
Appearances for them in the dressing room. They look really cool. Like even Uldir loot, which was kind of industrial, looks really good on the gnomes because their arms have the same tints as the copper and gold tones, and then their hair cogs are also similar. So I think they actually look the best in all the races in Uldir armor.
That's funny. More reason to go back and make sure you pick up all the armor from Uldir.
Yeah. So we have a few questions. I know the show's sort of been on the long side, and Annie's sick, and now I'm coughing too. So
I'm sorry if I made you sick, Perk. Through the internet.
We'll just take a few of them. But
Go for it.
Heavy Harper had a question asking if the legendary essence spell animations were data mined yet. I don't believe they are. Steven's watching the show, who does all of our model data. And I don't think they are implemented yet. You can't test out the legendaries on the PTR, but I would be curious to see what they are. He also asked, have we heard about the podcast Scott Johnson did where he was chatting with Chris Metzen about Cataclysm development and his projections for Thrall during that expansion? So I did not listen to it, but I've been meaning to, especially because when I tweeted about Thrall, Scott Johnson replied back to Wowhead's tweet saying we should check out his podcast. So maybe that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
But yeah, so I think that's about it.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It has indeed been a long show, and I hope my sniffing and sneezing hasn't been too much and my coughing. I picked up a bit of a cold after traveling to TwitchCon this weekend, and I actually can't believe it's Thursday already. I feel like I just came back from Germany, and apparently now it's been like 3 days, 4 days. Feels like I've only been home for a day. Time just goes so fast.
Yeah, you must be having fun.
I have been having fun, so I guess there's that. That's a good sign. If time has gone fast, that means you've been having fun. So that's good. But yeah, I believe that is everything. Everything covered in the past week. 8.2 PTR is available, and that is how we got all of the information from today, the visual and the texts and everything. And yeah, what are we expecting next? What's the next sort of info dump?
We haven't really had a ton of class changes, so I'm expecting some class changes. I'm expecting essence tweaks.
And of course to see the visual too.
Yeah. The missing PvP sets.
Yes.
And maybe starting to actually play the war campaign instead of just, reading about it. And like Sloot said, probably raid testing once Crucible is down.
Beat, yeah. So maybe in 2 weeks or so we see a little bit more details.
Yep.
Well, I think that's it for us tonight. Thank you to everyone for watching and hanging out. Thank you, Perk.
Yeah, Sloot's not here, but, thanks to him for taking time from his busy upside-down schedule to chat with us.
Indeed. It's actually so crazy that they have a different time zone stream every week. That's insane. It's like being jet-lagged weekly for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Actually, right after this, one of the other MDI hosts, and also a Wowhead writer, Automatic Jack, he has a recap of last week's MDI, which will be going up, I think, at 5 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be highlighting his article and stream right after this. So that's actually a really good tie-in. It's really cool how,
So that's a stream or a video?
He'll be doing he wrote an article and then he'll be discussing the article on the stream. So all right. A live video. I mean, it's really cool that we try to work with so many people involved in the MDI. And, even last week, Sours, another one of the analysts, he wrote a long article on Wowhead explaining why certain specs were overpowered. And, we had Tettles, another MDI analyst, on the show as March's guest. So we're really happy that so many of the people involved in the community event can also contribute to Wowhead.
Always very nice to have a guest.
Yeah.
Bringing a little bit of flavor, a little bit of extra flavor. But yeah, Perk, thank you as well for doing this while you're traveling.
Yeah, I try to have the visits with my parents be a little on the long side because I can work from home and I live I don't need to be in an office to work. And traveling to LA is really unpleasant, so you want to make sure you actually get a few good days in of travel, actually vacation and seeing the area. because it's a big pain to travel across the US.
Yeah.
And I was sensing the PTR would be this week because I thought they wanted Crucible to be the same week as PTR. So I was like, well, I don't want to travel that week because that would be disaster. So yeah, I definitely wanted to do this show no matter where I was, because it would be the first show after, you know, the PTR, and we'd have a lot of fun stuff to share with you guys.
Yeah, it was a very meaty show. There was a lot
I gave
of
you
things.
so much to do with the notes. You're a real trooper for, you know, finding images for everything.
Well, you're the trooper for setting everything up, putting everything together.
Oh,
All of you guys on Wowhead, always up to date, very fast, lots of information for anyone looking for anything. It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. During the show, I'm already thinking about new things to do. I'm like, oh yeah, we should do that, like Mechagon item post, because Sloot didn't know about that, and you know, like covered like the Essence quest line, but not the Emerald Dream part in detail. So I should do that as a separate post. So I have all these more post ideas.
And then
after
you
the show,
mentioned that thing today as well, that you were thinking for like an extra weekend thing to have sort of like off topics. Well, I don't know if off topic is the word, but just random things that people may not have experienced because they didn't play certain expansions. And it just shows how much thought you put into what kind of content you can have on the website. And I think that's awesome.
Aw, thank you. Actually, I wrote mine for this week in advance because I was worried about the PTR hitting.
Oh really?
My random suggestions will be do the Anduin cinematic in Legion, because that was discovered 2 years ago, I think today or the next day after. Get Pepe costumes, because they were data mined for the first time 4 years ago. And clear Molten Core, because the world first kill of Ragnaros was April 25th, 2005. So those are my random suggestions.
6 days. Cool. Actually, 7 days for you. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, no, that's really cool.
I really appreciate your kind words. Like, you know I do this show, but there are so many developers and writers behind the scenes as well that are contributing and do things for the site that I have no idea how to do. So it's really a team effort.
It's a big team.
Yeah.
I'll be on vacation at least 1 or 2 shows next month, visiting my birthday for the first time in like 10 years. Good luck with that, Sass. Good luck with that. That sounds exciting. First time in 10 years. We love you, Perk. Yes, we do.
Aww.
We do. And we love you guys who support as well. So thank you guys for being around.
Premium or telling your friends in guild chat or Discord that there's a cool Wowhead, guide to check out. We really appreciate all the continual support.
And at the end of the shows, you can remember to check the the panels, because if you manage to save up enough points, you can claim something actual physical by just watching the show. So on days like this, when the show is a bit longer, that means that you can actually claim more points.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, we're gonna be off for today. It's been quite a long show. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something or just enjoyed listening anyways. And we will be back next week with whatever is new between now and then. Did we do the giveaway? We did. We did do the giveaway. Yep. The winner was Nardessa or Nardessa?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Something like that. Nardessa. Yes, Nardessa is the name. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, hanging out, supporting, and we'll see you guys again next week. And shout out again to Slootbag for joining us today. Awesome having him here. And awesome of him to make time for the show when he is so busy.
Yeah, definitely check out the MDI and, look for Automatics Jack's article and stream on how last week's MDI went on Wowhead soon.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. No high five since I'm alone. But it's okay. We'll make up for it with a high five next week instead. Take care, everyone. And bye-bye.
Bye.
We can pretend that we can see Perk waving too.
Waving. Bye.
Bye.